Yeah, let's keep it a G Real podcast. We're back. This is going to be episode 30. We haven't done an episode in a while. Been trying to finish up school and stuff like that, but I'm here with the original guest. He's back. Anton. What up, Ton?
Yo, what's going on?
Nothing, man. Just had a little bit of time where school's over with, so now I got time to do more episodes. You know, you just narrowly got second place for Guest of the Year.
It's all right. Sometimes second place is not so bad.
Well, I mean, it was out of 3, but
Out of 3. Oh, hey, I'm in the middle.
So I figured out, well, you know, you could always be Andy J who didn't get a single vote. And then Nate goes, no votes for Andy J? And I go, is that a vote? And he goes, fuck no. Poor Andy J. But Kyle got 7 votes, you got 3 votes, Andy J got no votes.
That's fine. Let's get Andy J some votes next year.
Yeah, we gotta get Andy J some votes. You know what it is? It's all those Chuck Liddell takes that comes on here with.
Classic.
Chuck Liddell's a pioneer. He's one of the best ever. Oh.
Come on, people. Let's get him some votes.
Yeah, we gotta get some votes. You know what the issue was? I figured out. So I think a lot of the reason why not that many people voted was probably A, because this podcast isn't popular. But B,
we'll start off the top.
B, apparently on Facebook, I thought the poll thing was not up anymore. Like you couldn't use polls. You can't. It's so stupid. You can only do 2. When you do a poll, you can only have two options to vote. Can't do more than 2.
Yeah.
That's kind of corny.
Yeah.
Like, you mean to tell me I can't put all 3 of you guys up as polling options?
Yeah, that's kind of bummed.
But a buddy of mine, shout out to George Fuller, friend of the podcast, he's starting his own, I'm going to start plugging it. He wants to paintball. He's a huge paintball guy. He plays like professional paintball. A buddy of mine.
Yeah.
Question. You would think with all the people that love guns like in America and shit and how like popular all that stuff is, professional shooting, hunting, everything. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you think paintball would be a popular fucking sport? It's not. I don't know if it's not. It's because it's expensive to play. Now it's not as expensive. No. As expensive. But back when I was younger, I had a buddy that played, and it was fucking expensive to play.
Yes. Even to rent the guns, and then you're just doing it for a couple hours.
You've played some, right?
Yes. The one side note, I seen someone get shot in the nads at close range. I can tell you
shot in the nads.
That can make anybody stop playing paintball for a while.
That's fucking funny.
But outdoor courses, indoor courses, a lot of fun.
But I think it's fun too because I've played a little bit, but like I think it's weird that paintball's not popular. You would think well, get this. You know what is kind of more popular than paintball for some reason? Airsoft. They have airsoft tournaments. You ever seen airsoft guns? They're like these air pressurized guns that shoot these little bead pellets that aren't lethal.
Oh yeah, with the CO2.
Yeah, dudes go out there and do these big battles in the woods with forts and shit. And it's like, how is that more? I get it. It's more military style. You got to use tactics to crawl around. But dude, I think paintball's fascinating. Speedball, dude. You got teams of 5 trying to capture the flag, running through fucking snakes and Doritos and shit. And
maybe
I think it's cool.
Maybe because the idea of paintball is once you get hit, you're done. So
yeah, well, you get hit in airsoft, you're done too.
Yeah.
If you're playing in a real league.
Right.
I mean, obviously, we can go get airsoft guns and be like, ooh, just shoot at each other all night.
Now, does airsoft still rely like on paintball guns? You said no.
No, I could pull up for you. It's like these air. I don't know if it's air or CO2. They shoot these little yellow pellets. And so there's one dude I follow on the internet who uses a sniper rifle in these big tournaments. This dude just fucking OG lays out the briz, bro. Just picks people off. They get so mad.
Maybe that's just the evolution. People just don't want to deal with the paintballs.
Here's what I told him. I still think paintball has a lot of potential to get popular. It's just going to take some people to come along and really work hard and push the envelope and try to advertise it. And I told him, I go, you go to all these tournaments, all these games. I go, I know it's going to cost you money out of your pocket. I'm like, but if you're that passionate about it, take steps to try to get it out to people. I go, make a website, start filming it properly. Like I told him, I go, you should get like referee cams and top down cams. Make a podcast, start really trying to advertise it and push it. I'm like, you mean to tell me a sport like that, you can't get it popular? There's a professional league where guys make money. but there's not a fuck ton of teams. It just doesn't have a platform. I mean, when I was younger, there was a TV channel that had professional paintball on it, so I knew a little bit about it. I used to watch it all the time. But yeah, it's just he basically told me because of my like the stuff with the podcast, and I'm just doing it as like a little side adventure. He's like, you know, you've really inspired me to try to get this thing going. I'm like, yeah, dude, if you're that passionate about it, if it's your passion, like this dude travels, plays paintball, he loves it. I'm like, fuck it, try to make it big. I go, you never know, take a chance. Like maybe you'll be the dude that revitalizes paintball and brings it to the masses.
Another idea I had about it is, like when I would play, it was for fun. So it wasn't like there was any type of organized rules or team and strategy. Again, like if you drop me into a paintball tournament and put me on a team, guys playing with each other and having actual tactics, like it's not that I'd be lost, I just wouldn't be in the mix. You know what I mean? So like, again, people that play that maybe have a little military background are going to have a little bit of an advantage at first against other teams. Maybe there's an issue there while people do want to get in, but then when you get into it, it's getting the gun, getting the gear, all that stuff. And then when people are kind of raw or starting off on the basic level, maybe sometimes that could be a little deterrent from it. But to me, it's always fun. And you know what? If he's passionate about it, go after it and do a little podcast.
I told him that in the future, if he gets this off the ground and gets everything running, I told him that for fun, I want to get a couple buddies together and just make a crack amateur squad just for fun. And like we suck, but we just talk shit to people, just run around, shoot at people and shit, and just goof off. Like I told him I'll put
get ace,
team clam hammer together, or team stack like pancakes, something like that. Just go out there. We have like some fucking crazy uniforms, like tie-dye uniforms. Just run around, slide around,
rainbow uniforms. That's about
rainbow uniforms.
So everyone can see us.
No, we dress like the Rough Riders in all the old DMX videos. That's how we'll dress. But yeah, no, I just shout out to my buddy George Fuller. He's trying to get that stuff off the ground. Once he gets like a podcast going and a website up and he really starts pushing it and I get the full like details on everything, I'll be able to plug it a lot harder. But something I've been thinking about because I think paintball's cool. I feel like there's no reason for it to not be popular. And I definitely think a lot of it has to do with price. Because I had buddies that played, and I was always like, yeah, I'd like to play, but, I didn't have the money for it when I was younger.
Again, another thing is it's you have to actually get out and do it.
True.
And, again, a lot of this, a lot of that stuff now is why get out and do it when I can sit in a chair and fire up my game system and pretend like I'm big boss on COD.
Where's the new Greg Hastings paintball video game? That's what I want to know. Dude, that game was legit.
They got a lacrosse video game out there.
What?
A little Casey Powell or something like that video game. So,
but yeah,
if they want to get it done, they can get it done.
But yeah, you guys know what time it is. This is Keepin G Real podcast. We are going to get into the Briz on the sports today because we have a lot of catching up to do. I've been busy finishing up the semester. Tom's been doing his thing. And we're going to touch all the bases on all the sports stuff. We're going to talk a little basketball, soccer, a little football, but we're going to start out with the fights that just happened over the weekend. Apparently, Tom fell asleep or something like that. Or he was too busy watching boxing. Watching the subpar combat sport.
The classic.
You're such a huge boxing fan. I think it's funny.
Unfortunately, that was in the household. Boxing was on. So I do love boxing. I love the sweet science of it. Which I do love UFC also. You're just gonna find more hot takes and more information and getting in deep from me in boxing. But I am one that
but you know your MMA though.
Yes, again, I love MMA, but boxing is. You'll never get me to turn away from boxing.
Yeah, I only like boxing when the best guys are fighting. I love MMA all the time. I watch two schleps fucking fight.
Well, yeah, like boxing, I could do the same thing. I can watch two tomato cans get after it, and or a good fighter in a tomato can, which happens a lot in boxing. It's probably it's probably the bad side of boxing, but I can watch that. I can break it down. I look at it.
Break it down like a fraction.
So, but I do love MMA. It brings boxing, and also it brings all the other sciences to it.
God, it's such a great sport. It's so huge. Start getting so big right now, dude. I love fucking fighting, man.
Yeah, but again, I do love boxing is huge to me. And the UFC is also huge to me. I do like watching it. This weekend, there was both boxing and MMA on, so it was me switching the clicker back and forth until I end up counting sheep.
The best part about your situation though is I love the fact that Corey loves the fights so much. It's hard to find date a chick who likes the fights. Like, it's so funny. Like, she's in there with you just watching and shit. Well, dude. Actually, she knows what's going on. She knows what's happening.
Actually, she'll before the weekend hits, she'll get a tag.
Baby, is there any fights on?
She gets a tag from Facebook, and they obviously promote the fights through there, and people talk about it. And then so she always like, hey babe, is there fights on this weekend? It's like I can't throw it.
Dude, almost every chick I've ever seen, hung out with, whatever, fucking doesn't like the fights. And like, I mean, I got a friend Cassie who goes out with us every now and then and watches the fights. But like, have I ever told you? I was telling Andy J again. Have I ever told you a story about how I used to see this chick who lived in the city, and I was seeing her for a little bit. We're doing whatever. And one night she wanted me to come stay with her. She took the weekend off, right? And it just so happened to be the greatest fight card of all time. I think it was UFC 196. That was the one where every single fight had either a KO, submission. It was the night where Donald Cerrone fucking landed like the 6-shot combination, broke some dude's jaw. It was the night Conor knocked out Mendez. Ronda knocked out Betch Kahea. They had that fight between Andrei Arlovski and Travis Brown where they just were murdering each other. Like, it was just crazy. The whole night, Buffalo Wild Wings just going, oh, freaking out, screaming, right? Basically, this girl I was hanging out with at the time didn't like the fact that I wanted to go out to the fights that night and was being an asshole to me. And she was basically giving me an ultimatum. You either come hang out with me tonight. I'm like, why? You could just come watch the fights with us. She's like, no. She's like, yeah, they come hang out with me tonight. Or, we're going to this, that. Basically telling me, like, give me kind of like an ultimatum. And, dude, it was great because she was expecting me to be like, eat all this stuff, right? Whatever. I'm like, so you're making me choose between hanging out with you tonight or going to the fights with the boys? She's basically like, yeah. And I was just like, later. Like, she not expecting me, like, fuck you. I was like, lose my number. I didn't talk to her since. Did not talk to me since. It's been like, what? That was like 3 years ago. Chick has not talked to me since.
Yeah.
Sorry, fight is life.
Most women are not into this. I do have a woman that does like fighting, but I think she's more into people like the good hits. People fall on their bahunkus. That type of stuff. She's way into like if like up in this area, someone slips and falls on the ice. She's way into that. So she kind of likes the aspect of people getting kicked and kicked in the head. And
right. She's just trying to find Keith Thurman sightings. That's what she's doing. So what we'll do is,
or Jim Jackson.
Yeah, Jim
Jackson.
Go into that. But what we'll do is, since you didn't watch it, we'll go through. You watched Peter Yan versus Faber. We'll just glance over the main event or the main card, and I'll just fill you in as to what happened and what I thought was whatever. So yeah, you watched Peter Yan versus Uriah Faber. Now this fight, there was a shift change at work, so I had the fight on my phone in the desk. Mm-hmm. I only seen glimpses of this fight, and in the beginning it was like Faber was looking great, and then I peeked back, and Jan's just lighting Faber up when I peeked back, and like I was peeking on and off, and Jan was just fucking Faber up throughout the rest of the fight. Jan has great boxing, great positional awareness too. He never puts himself in position to be taken down. His positioning's perfect when he gets himself in position to cut dudes off and land shots. Jan was working Faber over. So what did you think about that fight?
Well, the one thing that I did notice is yes, Jan actually, when throwing the hand, was could get over the punch and with some power behind it. That'll always be a problem for anybody. If you can get the hands over, land with power, but land it, it's going to be a problem. It ultimately ended up being sort of the downfall in this fight. Don't get me wrong, Uriah Faber
I love Faber.
Is a pioneer in this sport. His athleticism when he was younger, he still
super athletic.
Still super athletic. The one thing about guys that have like that are very super athletic and as skilled as Faber is, sometimes they're a jack of all trades, but don't have a signature something to like. Hey, if I got to just step back and just, like Jan, I can just step back, throw hands, and have power. Uriah Faber has so many different skills, but one just doesn't stand out to me.
I think,
and it always seems to be a problem. And unfortunately, in other fights, he's broken his hand. I've seen that before.
Yeah, remember he fought with his elbows?
Yeah. So and he still was throwing. Sometimes that's just unfortunate. He's dealt with some injuries too. It's commendable. He still wants to fight. He's still in this game and wants to fight and wants to go after a belt. The problem and the issue, and especially with Jan, is younger fighter, very highly skilled, and again, some of these matchups are, they look good, but hey, you might not win these, and Uriah is just gonna have to keep living with that fact is that these guys are really good now. And a testament to Faber, these younger fighters were watching Faber. And
True.
This guy was the guy that was like, oh, I want to be that. Right. Athletic, doing crazy moves in the ring and all that stuff. And it was like, oh, making the sport look like not only just high level, but a lot of fun.
Right.
And I just think in this fight, the hands came over. Jan was able to get some kicks into. Towards the end of that fight, I think Jan got a kick in that was really hard. He got the punches in, and basically, the ref stepped in, but Faber knew at that point he wasn't going to really do much at that. He basically covered up, and the ref had to step in when he was on the ground. So. And good stoppage by the ref. It wasn't like he shouldn't have stopped it. There's no controversy there.
I think
Jan is very, like I said, very high levels, got a lot of skills. I just think that his power ended up proving the point in this fight.
I think you touched on two things that are important in there. Is you were talking about how these kids watched Faber growing up. Faber has not evolved as a fighter over time, in like his athleticism and how intelligent he is. And I think he does have a part of his game that's high level. It's his overall grappling game. But another thing you touched on, the people have gotten so much better, well-rounded. Most of these dudes have good takedown and defense in these weight classes. They could grapple. Uriah's fighting guys that are well-rounded. And when you got a guy like Peter Yan that's confident his takedown defense is going to come through and throw shots, that limits a lot of Uriah Faber's game plan. He always had Faber on the back pedal. Never gave Faber an opportunity to mount offense. And yeah, Peter Yan's, I think he's a special fighter. I think he's a beast. This was at what, 135? Yeah, bantamweight bout. Peter Yan's probably next in line for a title shot at bantamweight, which supposedly, which leads into the next fight, Marlon Moraes versus Jose Aldo. So you didn't watch this?
I bits and pieces. This is where I started to fade out, but I believe I ended up watching this. I believe I ended up watching this, and Jose Aldo was a little bit miffed at the end of this fight.
So I think these fights coincide with one another, right? Because say if Faber would have beaten Peter Yan, he would have been right in the mix for a title shot, right? Yan is high level. He's a top 5 guy. Jose goes in and fights Marlon Moraes, who's the number 1 contender who had just lost to Henry Cejudo, which was crazy. I thought that fight was going to be better. Cejudo fucked up Moraes. Jose Aldo came out and had the perfect game plan to fight Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes does his best work cutting angles and coming forward on guys. He's so explosive. Aldo came out, chased him down, pushed the pace, had his back on the fence a lot, and just went primarily with like a boxing attack, whereas he's so phenomenal at kicking. I would have loved to see him mix more kicks in there, but he was doing a really good boxing. He was using his jab really well and stifling a lot of Marlon Moraes' attacks. Referees gave it to Marlon Moraes. I thought Jose Aldo won the fight. My question to you is this. Henry Cejudo came out and was like, oh, I thought Jose Aldo won, which I believe he won, right? He goes, I want Jose Aldo. Dana says he's open to giving Aldo the fight because Moraes lost in such incredible fashion to Cejudo already, and he thought Aldo won. But do you think Aldo's more deserving beating the number one contender even though he lost? Or do you think Peter Yan is more deserving? Because Peter Yan's the next guy in line, in my opinion. Who do you think they should, or do you think they should make, I think they should make Aldo and Yan fight each other. Because Cejudo's got 2 belts. He can go defend that 125er and come back and fight the winner of Aldo or Yan. So what would you, if you were making this fight, what would you do? Would you give Aldo the shot? Would you give Yan the shot? Would you make him fight? Because they're the 2 guys at the top right now, Aldo and Yan. After Aldo's performance in the losing effort.
Well, you can do a couple combos of fights. You could have Aldo fight for that championship, or you can have, like you said, Moraes and Yan fight for it, or you can have Yan and Aldo fight for it. That way, if Aldo gets supposedly 2 losses, but the reason why Dana White said that was because he is not confident enough that Aldo actually lost the fight either. So to give
he said he doesn't believe he lost.
So to give Aldo a chance, and again, nothing bad for Moraes, but it's like, listen, you just fought him and you lost, and you lost real quick too. So the problem, and the thing is what you're saying in the fight. This seems to be a problem with Moraes. You overload him early in the beginning, and he starts to scramble. With when he fought Cejudo just blitzed him and got him out of there, and it seems like he can't handle the pace early on. Sometimes people want to, UFC boxing, they want to set the pace early, and sometimes it's not meant to drag you into deep waters with conditioning. It's really because this person likes to start off slow, likes to be methodical. You jump on them, they can't figure out a game plan.
Dudes are scared to straight up fight Marlon Moraes straight up too. Most guys try to cut angles and back up on Moraes and look to counter or take him down. Cejudo, I think, TKO'd him, which was fuck. I didn't expect that.
But he came after him and blitzed him. So what you're saying in the beginning of this fight, that Aldo kind of pushed the pace.
Dude, Aldo took the center of the cage and had his back on the fence the whole time.
Right. So
I didn't expect that.
So again, that's the evolution of a fighter. You watch and see what they do with the videotape and like, oh, listen, Cejudo set up a little bit of a blueprint to make this happen. Maybe we need to force the issue, or instead that's where he's gaining his confidence. You staying back and you try to trade with Moraes, but instead maybe you need to put the pressure on. He can't settle in. He can't get his brain to settle in to start, feeling out what he wants to do. Boxers do this a lot, where the first couple rounds, you can see a lot of things on tape. But in the first couple of rounds, what you want to do is you want to move around. You want to see what you can get. You throw little pop shots, little dummy shots. You do feints and stuff like that. All you're trying to do is you're trying to set up to see what you can get. Whether you want to throw certain combos, whether you feel like you could see an opening where it's like, oh, okay, he's getting around this, but he's not really seeing my right hand. Maybe Moraes does this and he uses maybe a little bit of the first round to get himself settled in and to see what he can get. Cejudo rushed him. All of a sudden, it's a scramble of a fight. Cejudo normally likes to do that, Hence, Moraes got kind of rolled, and Cejudo was able. He seems to, when he rushes you, or it's that scrambling type of thing early on, he tends to be more dialed in on to get a finish. Aldo probably saw the tape and was like, "Hey, listen, if I push this a little bit and get more in front of him early, it won't allow Moraes to get dialed in and to settle in." But again, Moraes is very dangerous when it comes to the hands and that stuff. But maybe that's a little bit of the blueprint. Get after him early, make him start scrambling and seeing. So now your question about who should fight. Now, if the guy setting up the fights, the president, thinks that Aldo really didn't lose, it could have been a split decision. There's nothing wrong with getting Aldo to go in and fight Cejudo. But again, the mind of a guy that's setting up fights, maybe a Peter Yan, Jose Aldo makes sense. Moraes fights someone else. It's like, listen, if you want that championship fight, you're going to... Obviously, in MMA, there's not really a lot of tomato cans at the top. That's why they have the ratings.
Right.
And they tend to match these guys up. So, Moraes, again, you had a chance. You lost it. Let's forget about the fashion in which you lost it. You lost that fight. In here, there's, they could have rematches, but that wasn't the case in this setup. You got to kind of win a couple fights to get back into the mix. Now, yeah, you might still be the number one contender, but the fact is that Cejudo does have a right to say, like, listen, let me fight some other people, and I'm willing to fight Aldo.
Right. He wants to fight Aldo.
If that's the case, it's a brand new fight. It's a lead fight on a card. Again, Dana White probably should go that route. Now, there's also nothing wrong, but like, okay, before we get you set up with a fight, we want to get this Peter Yan and Jose Aldo fight. Let's make this clear.
That's what I would do. Make it clear.
Let's make this clear. If Aldo wins, Aldo really didn't lose the fight against Moraes. It could have been a draw, but then he takes a younger fighter that's moving up. He shows, hey, I belong on the top up here. Maybe Yan is just a step below. And again, you don't run into the problem where you have Cejudo fight Yan, and then Yan gets blitzed.
Right.
I don't think that would happen, but I'm just saying, you can. There is something about in promotion building something up. The Yan Aldo fight tends to be a nice build up to get to Cejudo.
The reason why I say this is because people could say what they want about Uriah Faber, but people sleep on Uriah Faber all the time. If you come into a fight against Uriah Faber, I don't care who you are, you have to be on your P's and Q's. He's so explosive. He hits, contrary probably, he can hit you and hurt you. He's knocked dudes out. Like, I remember when people thought Michael McDonald, Mayday, was going to, when he was like 20, was going to come and smash Faber. Nate Fratelli and I, we love that fight because Uriah Faber beat the fuck out of him and threw him against the fence. You ever see that, dude? Threw him against the fence and beat him down. It was so funny, and I feel as though for Peter Yan, as young as he is, to go out and smoke Faber like that, I feel like he is, in theory, right there. So I wouldn't be mad if the UFC brass really thought Aldo won the fight and want to give a different dude the shot besides Marlon Moraes. Then I wouldn't be mad. I feel like they're kind of level. I feel like as good as he looked against Faber, I wouldn't mind if they made him fight. But in closing for this fight, I said on another episode, I don't remember if it was with you, I want to see Aldo versus Henry Cejudo because I personally think Aldo matches up well against them. Jose Aldo's never been taken down by anybody ever in his UFC career. All the great wrestlers he's ever fought. He's the ultimate anti-wrestler. And now the great thing about Aldo is he's only 33. He's still super athletic, right? Aldo primarily has always been a counter striker. When he was younger, he was the most explosive fighter I'd ever seen. And he was so athletic, he would wait back, he'd just wait for you to come in, and he would just counter dudes and put them away. Well, I like what he showed against Marlon Moraes. He's like, I can fucking come forward on a dude and put the heat on him and hurt him. His other fight against Jeremy Stevens, he was hurt and then bounced back and finished Jeremy Stevens. That shit, I was like, my hair was standing up during that fight because there was a point, we talked about it too. I'm just a huge Aldo fan. People thought he was done. Like, people thought Jeremy Stevens was going to beat him and shit. It was so crazy to me. Everyone's like, Aldo's washed up. Jeremy Stevens cracked him in the beginning of the fight and had him hurt, right? And I'll never forget, this is one of my favorite moments in combat sport. I'm watching the shit. I'm on the edge of my seat because I wanted Aldo to win so bad. This was his fight back after getting beat down by Conor, right? Jeremy Stevens hurts him bad, hits him with a shot, rocks him across the jaw. Most dudes would go down or fold. And at one point, after he gets hurt, Jeremy Stevens is chasing down, and all of a sudden you see this look in Aldo's eyes that he just like, it goes through his mind, and he's like, you know what? Fuck this shit, dude. I'm not fucking going down. This shit ain't over for me. And all of a sudden he's like, he starts establishing the jab back and he starts to clear the cobwebs. And all of a sudden he's throwing the straight right. And then he's hurting Stevens. I'm like, he's coming back. I was freaking out. And then he finishes Jeremy Stevens. I love Aldo. I love the way he matches up against Henry Cejudo. And now since he came forward on Cejudo and shown that he can do that, he can come forward on guys and be first. I think Cejudo's going to have a tougher time with Aldo than people think. Aldo can counter. He can come forward on guys. I guarantee you Cejudo can't take him down. I would put a fucking stack on that Cejudo can't take him down. That's the fight I want to see. I want to see Aldo versus Cejudo.
Okay, so I'll just go back to Uriah Faber. I just want
Cejudo's a gold medalist, by the way.
So I think you were right in what you said about Faber, which was a lot clearer than how I said it. He does have high level skills. It's just, I think he's jack of all trades. Yeah. So that comment,
he's just a handful, though. Yeah, he's just a handful for any guy to have to fight.
But I think you're right. Hasn't evolved. Those skills are high level, but you got to evolve to get to that next level where, again, Peter Yan can come in and say, listen, if anything fails, I can rely on power. If Jose Aldo starts to fail in a fight, he ends up doing, hey, guess what? Let me go back. I'm gonna grind this out and get. He's a grind him out fighter. Cejudo is. I think what we miss about Cejudo too is because a lot of the fights he's finished early, he's actually got good conditioning, and he does move really well in the ring. So a lot of these guys have these things where they can fall back on. Again, always when I see Faber, it's like he's got all these skills. So he can come at you at different angles. He can go down to the ground. He can grapple with you. He can do a lot of different things. I just don't think that he just has sort of...
He has an early 2000s MMA fighting style.
Which that still carries today because
he can grapple so well.
Yeah, he's so skilled. He's still athletic at his age. It's just is that these guys are, again, when you're the pioneer, ended up the problem is gonna, like you're a Ken Shamrock. You're that kind of guy. But once you get older, then these guys have looked up to you and they fine-tuned their games. They really worked and grinded out to level their game out. All of a sudden, Ken Shamrock, he can't deal with the fighters, that are the newer generation because he just has older level skills. I'm not saying his skills are older level because he does have a lot of great skills. He just, again, I think you said it best, evolution. So Aldo's a grinder. If that more calls to his heart, listen, I'm gonna not sort of finding a way to win the fight is like, I'm gonna find ways where I can put my hands on you and I can start to get something done. I see that a lot in his fights. He's not gonna be pushed around in a fight. And like you said, something I didn't know, doesn't get taken down. That will be a problem for Cejudo. Now, if they do fight, the question I would have in that fight is, does Cejudo really want to bring a fast pace early in a fight to Aldo? I think that might be a mistake.
I think if he comes in hot against Aldo, it's going to get him hurt.
Right. So the thing is that what he relies on, and doesn't make Cejudo bad. Cejudo's a wrestler. He can do those things. in different spots in the ring. I just think I've always been waiting around for when he does that fast kind of scrambling type stuff and try to put the pressure on. Someone gives him a nice straight and sends him flying back. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, where's the game plan now? Cejudo is good enough to grind it out, I believe. Like I said, I think he has fantastic conditioning. Because it does say something if you're in a championship fight and you come out that hot, that fast in the beginning rounds of a fight, you're not that concerned about your conditioning later in the fight. Because no one would go in with a game plan saying, I'm going to try to light you up to finish you up in the first round. So what happens in round 3 and 4 and 5? So I know his conditioning is good. I think that might be a mistake if he tries to do that against Aldo. I think Aldo brings enough power into that match. And I do think that Aldo does have the ability to grind it out if he has to go to 5 rounds. But he can really make that fight a war.
Yeah,
and really drag Cejudo into waters that maybe he might not want to go to.
Yeah, I think that there's been these little rumblings, these narrative I hear, and from people I know and other people I've heard talk. I think sometimes people question. I think it got compounded. I don't even know how to explain it. I think it got compounded when Conor knocked Aldo out. Mm-hmm. And I think it also is a side effect of the fact that Aldo, throughout most of his career, just fucking murdered everybody so fast. I think people have questioned Aldo's heart at times. And dude, I'm telling you, man, that's one of my, if I made a top 5 favorite MMA moments, dude, it's in there. When he could have packed the tents up. He could have folded up his lawn chair and laid down against Stevens and just taken a TKOL. But dude, I'm telling you, there's a moment in that fight when the camera pans perfectly in and he's on the back pedal trying to survive. And this look in his eye changes where he's just like, dude, fuck this. Not today. I'm not going out. I'm one of the greatest fighters ever. He's like, I'm not going down like this. And then he just started to fight back. Then eventually the momentum shifted. I was fucking screaming at my TV. I was like, because I knew he was starting to storm back. And then he finishes Stevens. It was so good.
So a different thing about UFC and boxing is boxing, you tend to, when you're building up, you have to build at a professional level.
I want to watch that now.
On a professional level, you have to build a resume of being fighters in a certain way. But the resume to get to fight good fighters, you have to have undefeated fights, or you have to have good signature wins, or you might be able to catch at 15-0. You might be able to catch maybe one of the belts that, getting in there. The difference with UFC, obviously, this, is that once you start getting into the mix of the top 20 fighters that you're going up against, the problem that you end up having is MMA is tough because you're not just doing one part of the science.
Anything can get thrown at you at any second.
You could have a lot of skills, but maybe your grappling's not good. Well, that could be a problem against certain fighters.
Maybe your fight IQ's not good. Yeah. There's a lot of fighters that have all the skill in the world. They're just dumb as a box of rocks. Don't know how to put it together.
Then again, we said about Faber. Faber lost a fight, but in the first round, he broke his hand.
Right.
That makes it tough. Even though he was able to survive out the fight and stuck the fight out, those things happen. So it's not, again, UFC, you have to bring a lot of the toolbox has to be filled with a lot of different things. Coming in just being a boxer is just not going to do. Coming in with just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is again, these sciences you can survive, but the more limited you are, the more limited you're going to be into getting consistent wins. With Aldo, you're asking him to go up against, at this point in his career, even at his young age here, middle age.
He's still in his athletic prime.
He's going up against, in the UFC, in his weight division, the top 20, top 15. Right. Now he's going up against top top 10 guys.
Maurice was the number one contender. He was ranked one.
So, about Hart. Listen, this is not easy to do. And then you have to go out there.
Training consistently is just not easy to do.
And that's a 3-rounder. But like, even if you do get the 5-rounder championship stuff, or you get a main event on a lesser card and get the 5-rounder because you're the main event, the problem is that you have to start figuring out within the 15 minutes you're given in a 3-rounder against Maurice, who's a top level fighter. You got to figure out how to win that fight and what you need to do within that fight within 15 minutes. Put any person in a ring with someone else for 15 minutes. Figure out how to beat them.
Right.
That's not easy.
easy.
Not easy. Again, like, these fighters do go through ups and downs. And again, if you don't have a championship belt, it's going to be a grind, and it's ups and downs. I don't fault Aldo for losing any fights, and give him credit for the fights he won. But this is not an easy thing to do, and that's just my opinion on the UFC. I think we take it for granted. I'm like, these are some of the best fighters in the world at doing this type of fight.
Like the idiots that try to act like these, like
this stuff is set up.
Will you ever hear someone go? My favorite thing that Nate and I hear dudes say at work when they're talking about MMA at work is, you'll have that one dude that goes, "Listen, bro, I'm a street fighter," and it's like, first off, how many fights have you fucking been? Second off, if you don't think that John Jones can do all the shit to any local tough guy in the street, if you don't think he could do all the shit he does to grown ass, hard ass athletes in the cage, he could do that to every single person out the street. Go find your block tough guy, and John Jones will peel his fucking skin off and make a coat out of it. These dudes that act like MMA fighters aren't fucking real fighters. It's like, I don't do that MMA stuff, bro. I'm a street fighter. It's like, dude, that's how I know you've never been punched in the fucking face.
When these dudes were getting knocked around by Kimbo Slice on the fucking streets, and the fucking little street fight bullshit, and then Kimbo Slice, obviously he was a little bit older, but got into the MMA and doing that.
Positive record as an MMA fighter, by the way.
No, I'm not saying. But
he's like 4-3 or 5-4 or some shit.
Come on, you've seen the fights.
No, I know.
You've seen the fights where he's already gassed out by round one. I mean, it's a different animal. Like, you're actually training with conditioning. You're actually fine-tuning the skills. It's a different level. Listen, your local Kimbo Slice is... like, these guys, you don't even compare to a dude that's half a Kimbo Slice that's out here fighting on the streets.
Whatever dudes say that.
He's like, oh, well, I'll just do the street fight.
Whatever
those
kids
dudes
say
ain't surviving.
that.
This is a professional fucking
Whenever
league.
dudes say that, Nate and I look at each other and roll our eyes. But anyways.
You got to think, these are high school linebackers and high school fucking maybe shooting guards, and like they're sitting there trying to tag people, and professionals where their bulbs are no good. It's like, okay, like you get out there and all of a sudden
I'd love to see you get in the cage and fight somebody, bro.
Right. Get
tired in 1 minute.
Let that cage lock behind you, or let that ring
shit your fucking
get in those
pants.
ropes, and then that dude that dude looks nice and cut. He's all greased up and got the sweat beating down.
He's trying to make his 10K to show, 10K to win.
Yeah, he don't want to be there because you ain't paying out.
2 to show, 2 to win.
You in the ring ain't gonna pay out. So like he's gonna finish you out and get the hell out of there and get something to drink. Nice cold one at the bar. So that's sort of annoying too. It's or people say, oh, it's fixed, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, you'll see it's not fixed. I mean, but they go to that old school boxing thing, and it's like, it won't, like, if this stuff was really fixed now in today's world, it won't survive. No one's going to put up with falsities and lies if that's going on. It's not the truth. But moving on. Okay.
Amanda Nunes.
You have to fill me in on these next.
So Amanda Nunes was Jermaine Durandame. It was pretty straightforward. I'm not a big fan of Jermaine Durandame because she won the UFC title, right? It looked impressive when she won it and all that shit. Although she won it off Holly Holm and cheated twice in the fight, and it was that sucked. Like, she kept punching Holly Holm after the bell. Like, at one point when she hit Holly Holm, it goes, and then like a clear second goes by, and she just goes, bap, and blasts Holly Holm and hurt her. right? So I thought that was a wild fight, but I mean, she still looked good in the fight. But basically, all that happened in this fight was Jermaine Durandame had her moments. We all knew what was going to happen, though. Jermaine Durandame's like, they fought once before, and Amanda Nunes took her down and beat the fuck out of her, right? And I knew that was going to happen again. Or Amanda Nunes took her down and beat her up. Same exact shit happened in this fight. But I feel like there was a sense of urgency for Amanda Nunes to take her down because Jermaine Durandame was giving her all she could handle on the feet, in my opinion. Jermaine Durandame was coming forward, throwing shots, landing shots. Like, she's a high-level striker. You can make the argument she's the best striker in the division. She's one of the greatest female kickboxers of all time. But it just goes to show you that Jermaine Durandame is not a well-rounded fighter because Amanda Nunes was shooting half-ass double legs, just bowling her over and taking her down. But there was an interesting moment in the fight. Two interesting moments. Joe Rogan's literally like, at one point, Jermaine Durandame's on her back, and Amanda Nunes is raining shots down on her. And Rogan goes, man, Amanda's got to watch for these up kicks. These up kicks are serious and all this, right? And then Jermaine Durandame goes, boom, blasted her with an up kick as she was coming down. Almost knocked her unconscious. And this just goes to show you that there's levels to fighting. So, Jermaine Durandame blasts her. Dude, it was one of the heaviest up kicks you'll ever see. She was almost out cold. Amanda Nunes falls into side control, but not controlling her. She's just laying on her, trying to get her fucking mind straight. And if Jermaine Durandame understood that she had her hurt, all she would have literally had to do is shrimp to her side and just get up to a knee and come up blasting. She probably could have put Amanda away, but she didn't. She laid there, no sense of urgency, let Amanda recuperate. You could go find the fight. She's not even controlling Jermaine. She's just laying across her like this with just enough wherewithal to try to keep some pressure on her. And Jermaine Durandame is just laying there going like this, like throwing little rabbit punches and stuff. If she would have exploded her feet and just tried to dump the tank and land shots on her, she might have put her away. And then later on in the round, Jermaine Durandame almost slapped on a triangle. It looked like she had a triangle armbar, but Amanda got out of it. But basically, it was a domination by Nunes. Jermaine Durandame had her moments on the feet, but Amanda did a good job getting in and taking her down, and she held her down most of the fight. It was your classic, like, Amanda's more well-rounded, took her down, and just beat her up and controlled her.
But, my thing
went to a decision.
Yeah, my initial thoughts of the fight was when it comes to Nunes, can you withstand her heavy punching?
And she came forward throwing shots to me.
Right. So if you can withstand that, you got a chance in the fight. If you can't handle the heavy punches, or like Cyborg, if you think you're gonna stand toe to toe with her, and you think you're gonna try to get your heavy hands over, which is the problem with Cyborg is he always has to drop a ton of weight to get down there. That's not her natural weight. But the thing is that it still doesn't negate the fact that Nunes has very heavy hands.
She's fast and accurate.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing.
And Cyborg, again, if Cyborg could get fighters to fight at her natural weight, it would be a different thing. But anyways, Cyborg wanted to stand toe to toe. She ended up getting clobbered in that fight.
Dude, that was brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal. So my instinct on this fight was, could Durandame actually stand toe to toe? If you can do that, then you've got some type of chance. Because Nunes does, you can drag her into dark waters,
and she's hittable,
stretching out, and then
she's hittable too.
Right, and she does get into this thing where she wants to use her hands too much, and really she's better off trying to get that person down and inflicting some pain with her on top. That tends to ultimately be her best attribute, is taking them down and do ground and pound. But what she does is she stands on her feet too long, and even though she got Holly Holmes, the fact is that Holly Holmes is initially a boxer. So she can dance around. Yeah, you're throwing heavy hands, but she can make you miss and boom, start tagging you. And then all of a sudden in the fight, you started to, and Joe Rogan even said it in that fight, probably be a good idea if Nunes tried to take this fight to the ground and try to get on top and try to impose some will. So she sometimes gets dragged into deep waters doing something she don't want to do. Her best attribute is getting the person to the ground. She has that ability. She can get most people down and do a ground and pound. Durandamine, kickboxer, yes. But a lot of times with the boxers, they don't know they're back on the ground unless they get knocked out or knocked down. So they have very little experience and comfortability with their back on the ground. That tends to be the problem with them. Once their back is on the ground, all of a sudden they're like a fish out of water. They don't know what's going on or what to do. And especially if you're going to do that against someone that is well skilled, like Amanda Nunes, who likes to be on top, likes to do the ground and pound, you're always going to get yourself into trouble.
Yeah, her top game when she gets girls on their back is pretty heavy. She rains down mean shots. Like, she's really aggressive. The problem was Jermaine didn't do the worst job defending off her back. Like I said, she slapped on a submission at one point and stuff and stood getting knocked out. What was the worst part about Jermaine's game was no IQ as to seeing that Amanda kept throwing combinations and then ducking under and shooting a takedown. Jermaine Durandamine just didn't even use her hips. There was no takedown defense. She just kept toppling her ass over like she was top heavy, just bowling her over. She was never in position to defend takedowns. She just worked her over.
Now the fight Durandamine, the fight before when she fought Ladd, all of a sudden that was a problem with Ladd. You want to stand toe to toe with her again. You got put to your knees because that's where she's high level, standing up, trading with you. Even though, let's say, I'm going into the Amanda Nunes fight, she knows she got heavy hands, but she's comfortable on the feet, counter punching. That's her comfortability. Ladd found out that's probably not the ideal thing to do, and she ended up getting roasted pretty early in that fight. Again, if you want to be the champion, yes, she's a number one contender. The only problem is that the actual champion does things that you have not evolved into doing. Maybe it's too late. Maybe you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But you're going to find this result every time. This is a second loss by the same person. Now let's go back to Aldo, Maurice, and Jan. Now you start getting into that thing is, do we want to set this fight back up again? This is the problem you end up with. If this is how you're going to show how you're going to fight this person, yes, another good fight, but the fact is you lost twice.
Exactly.
And you're not evolving in your ability to counteract this person. Why would we want to fight 3, fight 4, fight 5?
Right. But yeah, she looked pretty dominant. I plan on doing an episode where I do I don't know how many I want to do. I want to do an episode where maybe do top 15, top 25 greatest fighters of all time. And I've slid Amanda Nunes into the top 10. She's definitely in the top 10. She got 2 titles. She's the most dominant female fighter. I thought Joanna Jędrzejczyk was going to hold her belt for a long ass time and beat everyone up, but she's been hit and miss lately. But yeah, Amanda Nunes just was a beast. Jermaine Durandamine, though, she had a moment there where I really think she whiffed. I think people don't understand how close she could have been if she had the awareness and the fight IQ to maybe get a stoppage in that fight. She had her so hurt with that upkick, dazed, but oh well. She's never getting another title shot again. She's lost to her twice. But Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski was probably the fight that I did not expect this fight to go the way it went. And Volkanovski looked great. A lot of people are like, oh, Max tried to say he thought he won. I'm sure Andy J will come out the woodwork and be like, Max won. But I had Volkanovski winning 4-1 round wise. And it's a classic case. And I've talked about this before. So basically, this fight was contested on the feet the whole time. And Volkanovski, a little bit of measurables coming into this. Now, people like to use height and reach and be like, oh, as their little talking points and not really talk too much tactics. But what's interesting about this fight is Max is almost 6 feet tall, right? He's 5'11", but he only has 69 inches of reach. Volkanovski's 5'6". He has 72 inches of reach. So coming into this fight, I was curious as to how Max was going to approach this fight, but when Max fought Dustin Poirier, after Dustin Poirier fought him, they asked him, what was your strategy going into the fight? He said, Max is a rhythm fighter. And he said, if you can offset his rhythm, he's beatable. You could take advantage of offsetting his rhythm, right? He goes, you can't let him get going. Once he gets going, he's hard to beat. This and it's funny because Volkanovski apparently, listened to Poirier say that and apparently built a game plan around that. The way Volkanovski won this fight, in my opinion, is a classic tactic that people would know unless they're consistently in the gym at any period of time and they're not striking with people, right? One of the easiest ways to defend yourself against other strikers when you're striking against them and stifle their game plan is to just beat them to the punch and be first with your timing. And Volkanovski landed a lot of leg kicks, and he was timing his shots, so when Max came in to try to land his, he was meeting him halfway with all of his punches and kicks, not letting him set up and get patterns. Like, he was just stifling him over and over again. Stifle, stifle, stifle. The problem is, when dudes try to do that, they'll just do the stifling and not throw counters. Volkanovski was doing a really good job with his jab and with his leg kicks. Every time Max would come in, he would just pepper with him some and then finish off with some combinations. And a lot of times, if your reaction time's good enough, or you can meet a guy at the point of their attacks, you could stifle all of their movement, their striking, and that's a super basic strategy for trying to fuddle up a dude's striking patterns and striking game. Just be first. Always beat the guy to the punch. Time when you feel like he's going to come in and then throw your shit. That's what he did against Max. I've seen a couple other dudes do it, and it's a very simple way to throw someone off their striking game.
In boxing, what they do, what they actually call that is you come inside, but it's how you come in and how you exit. Now, the fighter that's aggressive or like you said, like to get in rhythm, what he ends up doing is he likes to come in. Manny Pacquiao is a perfect example. What he does is he jumps in, gives you a flurry, and then jumps out. But the flurry is it's volume punches. It's not one or two or three. He's trying to go in and get a maximum of 3 to 5 punches in that combo. Also, what he's trying to do is he's going to the body, he's going to the face. He's actually creating a combo in which he could get to your head, which opens up your body, get down to your body. He wants to connect with the 3 to 5 punches or 6 punches. He's not going in there to try to just connect with one punch. So what you do is like you're saying with Volkanovski, is you want to disrupt the volume punches or the combos. Right. So in boxing, by beating that person to the punch, what you're ultimately doing is when that person comes in and that person is getting striked, that's not a counter punch. You're not waiting for them to punch and then you're countering that. What you're actually doing is you're meeting him before the punch. So when that person wants to start throwing, you try to jump in front of it. What happens is that once that person that's aggressive starts to get punched, what do? You exit out. You don't stay in to get clobbered. So again, what you're doing is you're stifling a rhythm. So what you're actually trying to impose, what you're saying with Volkanovski, is you actually want Max Holloway to exit out. So he's coming in with an aggressive.
You're making him reset every time.
You're making him like, oh, this is not a good idea. Let's get out of here. Because if he stays in there, all of a sudden you've already met him with a punch. You start throwing your combos. All of a sudden, Max Holloway goes in thinking, I'm going to get a 3-4 punch combo. I'm going to get in rhythm. All of a sudden, he comes in. He's actually getting hit with 3 to 5 punches, and then he has to exit out. So the thing is, you meet them. You actually want them to exit out sooner than to get into a rhythm, which is it's a lot hard. Like, it seems basic, like you're saying, but it's actually a lot harder to do.
It's harder than people think.
You have to.
It's tedious.
You have to get that rhythm very early and very soon.
Yeah.
Because if you want to impose that, you have to know tendencies on when that person wants to, in a sense, like in UFC where they kick to the legs. All of a sudden, that person starts to volume kick to the legs. That starts to hurt your leg. All of a sudden, now you're trying to read when that person's kind of kick, and you can move that leg up, or you can, or you can stifle that kick. But that's still hard to do once that person starts to get in a rhythm of punching, or in the case of UFC, in kicking, and like you trying to stop that, but and again, also you're trying to set up a trap too, because you want Holloway to come in and do his thing. You want to meet him, but the trap is
it's
like
delayed countering.
Does he want to stay in here, or does he
Right.
want to exit out? And really, what you're doing is like, I'm gonna allow you. I'm gonna try to get your rhythm down to get in front of you. But if that happens more often than not, again, it's a basic way, but it's a difficult way to stop an aggressive fighter from being aggressive. And again, if the point, what you're saying is to slow him down from getting rhythm. Me personally, as a guy that watches boxing, that's tough to teach a fighter to do, is to get in front of the fighter
Right.
instead of behind him.
Because you're teaching them, hey, you got to live in harm's way,
Right.
to disrupt this
Volkanovski,
over and over and over and over and over.
There is a danger in that guy might.
Because if a guy wants to ratchet up a 4-punch combination,
you might be setting up your own trap.
yeah, you're basically delaying your counter, right?
You might set up your own trap,
Right.
As in, you want to meet him, but the thing is, if that person's really fast and that person
Or commits to higher level combinations.
right, or could see that in a tendency while you're doing that, maybe goes to the body, maybe does a feint and sets a trap for you, you can find yourself in a really bad position. And especially if that person is high level at their boxing or their stand-up game, if they set enough of a trap while you're trying to do that, they can be like, oh, I can set this up so I can get my power hand over, and that's when the problems start. But again, if you're able to set up that game plan and get that over, let's say even 40% of the time, that's positive in that way, because like that's a hard thing to do. It's not the road I would tell a fighter to take, but if you're confident in your fighter and what he could do, and you think he can pull that off, that's something to do.
And I think the reason why it works so well with Volkanovski is this. Volkanovski came into the fight being this dude that's been blasting people with power. Like, they're like, this dude used to weigh 210 pounds. He was a rugby player. He was 5'6", 5'6". And he came into, he put a fucking beating on Chad Mendes. Like, worked Chad Mendes with crazy, powerful, fast punches. But I think why the game plan to stifle Max's attacks worked so well was Volkanovski never really committed to landing power shots to put him away. He fought with medium power. It was technical. And I think the stifling technique he employed on Max got compounded with the fact that Max probably expected him to come out and try to blast him. And he didn't. He was like, I'm going to throw everything medium. I'm just going to land my shot, stifle shit, drag the shit out. And he just picked him apart. And I think Max was even more hesitant as he got stifled because he was worried about big punches going over the top. Like, Volkanovski can fucking crack.
And like you're saying, once you start doing that, and like you say, he probably took off a little bit of the mustard so that he could get more of those shots over. All of a sudden, Max, Volkanovski, now that he knows he has that, now Max has to press. And that becomes a problem for Max. All of a sudden, now you got to press in a fight because obviously, listen, guys in a fight know when they're winning or they're losing. Mm-hmm. Or they know where it's half and half. Like, this guy's got some good shots on me. I've got to, especially with a championship fight, I got to start pressing the issue. But that's another trap that you set. If you are able to set a pace, if you're able to take someone to the ground and pound them, you're able to lock them up on the ground, they're always on their back, all of a sudden that other fighter has to press because they're like, yo, listen, I got to get back in this fight, or I got to start making it look like I'm winning this fight or I'm controlling tempo. All of a sudden, you start to press. All of a sudden, Volkanovski's game plan looks even better because now he's got the rhythm down. Now this guy really wants to come in, and now you're able to just pick him apart. And then what ends up happening is then you start to look like the total winner of the fight because now the judges start to look at tempo, and now you set the tempo, and he can't get back into the fight unless he gets a knockout or a submission. Again, those are things within a fight. If you're able to set up a really good game plan, and it starts working in your favor, you have so much more things that you can do in that fight instead of a guy that might feel later in the fight that he's down has to reach. Like we were saying with Aldo, sometimes you got to reach down and get it. But again, those are tough places to go to come back up and then come back and win fights.
And personally, I think Max also is one of those guys who is so good coming forward that he never has to fight backing up a lot. And that was another big reason is like you'd be surprised. I think the vast majority of strikers, no matter how high level they are, I don't think a lot of them are really all that good fighting backing up. And I think Max Holloway, with his pressure and valuable punches, he's been able to just grind dudes up like a fucking meat grinder. But I think Volkanovski is going to be a hard dude to beat right now because he's explosively athletic. He's compact with long arms, and he's proven to be way more skilled than I thought. They're supposedly going to run it back because Max has had the belt for so long and all that stuff, and they want to make sure. But statistically, the dude that wins the belt from the champ usually, if like a champ loses his belt, he usually gets beat again on the rematch. I think the fight will look similar. Can Max win? For sure. I think the fight will look similar to this one. It'll probably be it'll be more close. But I think Volkanovski clearly won, and hats off to Volkanovski, man. I did not expect that. I knew he was a dangerous fighter, but I just didn't know how he'd perform the bright lights, 5 rounds against a guy like Max Holloway. Just super big win for him.
You know what? Sometimes even championship fighters, sometimes a loss helps to, when they get back into the gym, in a sense, get back into the lab, start testing some things out, actually could be a blessing in disguise. Listen, this guy put together a game plan. He was able to execute the game plan. And in a sense, like you said, normally he likes to come with power. Max thought he was going to come with power. All of a sudden, it confused him. It could have confused him, or it could have been like, I'm waiting for this dude to come around with power. By that time, the fight's over with. You lost your belt. So if they do run it back, because probably it was probably an exciting fight.
It was a good fight.
Yeah, it was a good
Towards
fight.
the end, Max knew he was losing. They started trading punches and shit.
And you know what? In a weird way, Max sometimes likes to get into those.
He wants to force a brawl.
Yeah, he wants to force a brawl. He's a brawler. He wants to force a brawl. That's a really good way of putting it.
Why and I, Hawaii?
He wants to force a brawl. Because moreover than not, he ends up get volume punches in there, and he always looks like the better fighter once it becomes just a free for all.
The optics.
Yeah.
The referees love optics because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, he clearly beat Ricardo Lamas, but remember when he fought Ricardo Lamas and he like fucking pointed to the floor in the middle of Mags, like, come on, bitch. They started just fucking swinging on each other. Right. Referees look for that shit, the optics.
But he
or the judges.
That could really be within the core of him. He really wants to. He wants to drag him out, brawling fight, and he knows that if he could take it there, he's moreover going to win that fight because not because he's just going to dig down deeper. It's just his fighting style wants.
He's
to
good in that phone booth.
Let's
rhythm. Let's just slug it.
Let's just let's just throw
cardio.
Yeah,
and that's a testament to Volkanovski's focus because like he stayed disciplined and just used that game plan the whole entire fight, all 5 rounds,
which is smart. Holloway's really gonna because again he's like you said that phone booth type of fighter. He's gonna have to figure out from what you're saying in the fight. He's gonna have to figure out instead of being the brawler, learn how to be a boxer.
Exactly, and he
You know
could,
what I mean?
and he
Learn
can
how-
box. He could box.
Yeah,
but
he can box, but learn how to. Okay, this guy took some mustard off and controlled the fight by beating you to the punch and doing this and that. Now you're gonna have to figure out how am I gonna how. Okay, now I've seen this fighter. I got something different. That was a really good fight. How can you be the patient fighter and then move the fight into getting it to where you want? Maybe he figures out a way. Hey, I can figure out a way how to drag Volkanovski into a brawl. He's gonna have to figure that out. This might be a good thing for him.
maybe before we move on to the final fight, personally, I think Max Holloway should fight at 55. I know he lost to Poirier up at 55, but Poirier's underestimated and underrated by how good of a fighter he is. He's one of the most complete, well-rounded fighters in the UFC.
Yep.
And on top of that, he hits like a Mack truck. I think because Poirier had that blueprint, that game plan, and came in with that, I don't think it. I still think Max is a 55er. Dude, Sensor says that he knows her fact because Sensor pays attention to Max's like videos and stuff. Sensor says Max gets up almost to 200 pounds. I think Max should get on a different style of strength conditioning program. I think he should fight at 55. I think that's his home. I think he needs to go up to 55 and fight up there. I know he lost to Poirier, but I think that's his home. He's only 28. He's going to get bigger. Naturally, it's harder to make that weight. He looks like a skeleton when he makes 45. I think he'd be better at 55.
This happens a lot in boxing. There's so many fighters and so many weight classes, and the problem is and you always hear this thing where this fighter has won belts on across 4 different divisions or 5 different divisions. It seems like you hear it a lot, but really it's very uncommon. There's only a few fighters that can actually do that, and then when you really look at the record books, not a lot of fighters have done that multiple times, trading up in weight class. The thing is that fighters end up moving up because once you become older, your body becomes more mature. You take on some weight.
He's only 28.
Right.
That's so crazy.
So, but
pivotal point in his career, like you said, the losses. Like I think that if he gets his mind right, this could be a good thing. Like,
and
it's never good to lose your belt,
but you
like,
do see
time to recharge and figure out what he wants to do.
You do see, and especially at that featherweight division, you do see in that division, and him personally, he needs something to get him up for the fights, and while he's in the fight,
better
too.
dudes at 145,
right,
or 155. I mean,
right. So he has kind of ran through the division, but like not getting enough good fights. And then sometimes in fights, I've seen him fight, and he doesn't seem up all the time. Like he's not involved like every single round or every single moment. He's kind of like oh, I'm going through the motions here.
Because let's be real here. I don't honestly, if you match their skills up and stuff, I don't think Volkanovski is the better fighter. I think he came in with a better game plan.
But the one thing about even with boxing and MMA, you gotta understand, some of these guys don't want to move up when this their natural weight is the next level up, or maybe even 2 levels up. I don't
even honestly, Holloway's huge. I don't even think that 55 is his natural weight.
So
he probably, if he just ate healthy, would weigh $185. Sensor says he weighs 200 pounds when he's not fighting.
But a lot of this happens, especially in boxing. You don't lose the speed, you end up losing your power. And sometimes that is the overarching idea of not moving up, because the thing is that you're able to control fighters at certain weight classes. He at 5'11", he does probably need to move up. And like if what Spencer is saying is true, that he does balloon up to 200, it's like, probably you need to be up or up. But some fighters have really heavy hands or good hands at that certain weight class.
He's never missed weight.
Right. So maybe, again, this happens a lot. Maybe he's feeling he does not want to give up the power. In boxing, it happens a lot. And a lot of dudes end up moving back down, or they're at a higher weight class, let's say at a welterweight. they end up moving down and they survive better down at just a lower weight class. They can make the weight. The thing is that a lot of guys are really fast, but at certain weight classes, they just don't have the heavy hands. A good fighter to name, Paul Malignaggi. Very fast hands.
Paul Malignaggi.
Very good defensive speed and defensive skills. When he got to the really good fighters, it was half and half.
Just couldn't put him away.
He couldn't put him away. So again, the fighter will start moving forward and trying to impose their will. Maybe they won't because Paulie is really good at getting in and getting out, but the power does make a difference sometimes. And sometimes the overarching problem for Malignaggi is sometimes the power ends up showing and dictating the pace. It shows control. Hitting you, you're getting sprawled out across the ring, but clearly you've doubled him up on the amount of punches that you've actually tagged him with. But speed does not supersede power. It just like when you're getting the actual visual of it, it doesn't. When you hit someone and their head flings back like it was about to fall right off their shoulders, and then to a jab, what's going to look more determining by the view? It's going to be the heavy punch. Maybe that's an issue. But again, maybe going up and losing to Poirier, maybe that's another issue where, again, a lot of people view Poirier as this guy that's like middle of the road, and he's probably a little bit better.
Which is fucking crazy.
But maybe that's an issue that he sees where he's like, hey, maybe I went up, I lost to a guy that's sort of, middle of the road, or what we would call a journeyman fighter or journeyman player, and maybe he's like, okay, if I'm gonna lose to this guy, maybe I don't have what it takes to really be up on that level. Again, that it's a main overarching idea that I think that guys, and I've heard you say this a lot when we've been watching fights, and it's like, yo, this guy belongs the class up. He can't make the weight, blah, 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 blah. But they want to stay down there because initially when they're fighting, that's their weight. But when you get older, you take on weight, and then you really should move up. And some of these guys want to stay down there because they know that they've done some things on that weight class. Plus, again, sometimes it becomes a power issue. They know that they can dominate guys on that level, going to the next level up. All of a sudden, now you're seeing a whole bunch of guys that are really you. Because when he goes up to 155, and then you end up spitting up further, all of a sudden you're gonna be staring with a lot of guys that are staring you in the face or taller than you.
Yeah,
and the same size.
So with the weight thing, my point with the weight thing is this: I feel like fighters need to do a better job with their coaches and their management being honest about what weight class is best for them, from a skill standpoint, height, weight, speed standpoint, your overall health, hydration. I think the casual fans, and I even think some fighters do this, I think they put too much of an emphasis on being the bigger opponent in fights. And you might be a bigger opponent, a guy, but that doesn't mean you're stronger. Just because you have a size advantage doesn't mean you're stronger. It doesn't mean you know how to use that strength. For example, Khabib's a decent size 55er, but there's been way bigger 55ers than Khabib, and guess what? He will fucking manhandle every single one of them, just like he's going to manhandle everybody else. Khabib could probably go up to 170 and manhandle most dudes up at 170 physically. I think you need to find the right weight class, like Darren Till. Part of the reason why Darren Till probably got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal was because you're so fucking zapped. He takes one punch from Masvidal, who in my opinion is not a big welterweight. I think if Masvidal gets in really good shape, he's probably a 55er. He talks about how he never dieted until he was like fucking 30. Like, Masvidal's just so good at fighting. He's been fighting big dudes his whole entire life that he just knows his way around a fight. I think it doesn't matter if he fights 55 or 70. I think the weight's least of his concerns. I think fighters need to be more honest about what weight class fits them, because in my opinion, power punching, being the ability to punch dudes hard, is one of the least important abilities to have in MMA. In my opinion, power gets less important as you go up in weight and more important as you go down in weight. Once you get into like 185, 205, heavyweight, they all can fucking hit each other and put each other down. If you ain't got power at those weight classes, then I don't know what to tell you, really. I mean, get the rest of your skills up. The reason why it's more important when you go down in weight is because everyone's head is roughly the same and everyone's brain is roughly the same size. And when you go down in weight, dudes don't hit as hard, and that's why you don't see guys go out at the lower weight classes. You have these fights where they just bink each other the whole fight consistently for 3 or 5 rounds, and no one gets hurt, no one gets knocked out because they can't generate the power. Now, if you're a dude like John Lineker, remember John Lineker at 125, the Brazilian cat is only like 5'2"? He, for the longest time, had such heavy hands at 125. He was hitting dudes stone dead, and that's an anomaly. But he fought TJ Dillashaw, who's a legit, when you talk about pound for pound skills, is one of the best fighters in the UFC. Mm-hmm. He put on a clinic and torched him because he's like, oh, you punch hard? That's cute. I'm just going to beat you in every other department, and you're not going to hit me. So I think guys need to find the proper weight that doesn't zap you, your cardio, doesn't zap your chin, where you think you can enact your overall physical attributes and your skills against guys. And stop killing yourself cutting weight, or they need to make more weight classes. One of the two.
We've had this conversation while watching the fights, and I'm in agreement. Even watching boxing, but this is why you have a lot of issues, and they're changing the rules in boxing based upon boxing. Here's the main difference with UFC and boxing when it comes to the actual hands on the people. Boxing, once someone gets knocked out, choked out, or the ref starts to see that there's some volume of punches, ref stops it. That's actually a healthier way of fighting because it's not the volume of punches against the head. Boxing, the problem is that it's a repetitive pounding of the head, whether jab, whether
if you're tough enough to fight through, you can get knocked out multiple times, get back up.
Yeah, and get back up, which is actually probably
dangerous.
Very dangerous. So,
not that the other form's dangerous. I mean, all combat sports are dangerous, but
now
the rule of the intent is to, if you're hurt and in a compromising situation even once to where they feel like you can't defend yourself, that's the fight.
So here's the issue with now that there's a rash of people that are getting seriously hospitalized, if not dying after these fights.
Young kids.
And then going back in, especially the amateurs, going back in and fighting a week later or whatever, when they just came out of the hospital. A couple things. Number one, they're trying to cut weight. So the one thing, what do you do when you try to cut weight? What's the main thing? You stop drinking water because you don't want to put on water weight. So what happens is you become dehydrated. Now you go into a fight, you're dehydrated, you got no energy, and then you're getting basically piss pounded in the head constantly. And then you keep repeating the cycle, and especially for low-level fighters, you're doing it consistently. Then add that you're trying to make weight for a major fight, and then you're starving yourself, you're throwing up, you're not hydrating yourself. You're not only that, now you're trying to go out for 6, 7, 8 mile runs, 10-mile runs to cut the weight. Then you're trying to do that before the weigh-in, which is the day before the fight. When you see fighters they'll say an undisclosed injury, they'll say, or some of the fighters, sometimes the fights don't happen the day before. Like, this person was like deathly sick. No. Throw that away. It's probably because they got dehydrated and they couldn't make weight.
Right.
The other thing is and you've brought this up a ton of fucking times. When dudes consistently don't make weight, again, there's an asterisk there. At that point, once it happens like twice, 3 times, like someone else has to step in and be like, wait. Here's the deal. We're not going to keep propping you up for these fights at this weight class if you can't make the weight. Number one,
Cejudo had that issue earlier.
Right. So all of a sudden the penalty is like you're going to lose some money. No, why don't the penalty be you're not fighting at this weight class. Clearly you can't make it. You need to step up. If you don't want to, that's fine. Go somewhere else and fight.
Yeah, Dana stepped in at different times and been like, yo, like put his foot down and be like, yo, like Calvin Gastelum.
Yeah.
Dana was like, he missed weight so many times. Dana's like, dude, you're done fighting. You're done fighting at 70. You're like, you need to go up to 85. Best thing for his career, because Calvin Gastelum's a fucking animal up at 185 pounds. And he's the smallest 85er in the division, and he's fucking murdering people.
So, but
he can't beat the top guys, though.
Right.
His physical attributes, like I said, I know people are high on Israel Adesanya, but if Calvin Gastelum didn't have like tiny ass reach and wasn't so short and stumpy, he might have beat Israel Adesanya. He was beating Israel Adesanya to the punch, hurting him, knocking him down. And it's his physical attributes that made it so he couldn't finish him. He had to commit to jumping in there and overextending so much just to land punches to hurt Izzy that he was out of position to throw follow-up strikes to finish him and hurt him even more.
Well, again, that's Gastelum's problem because you can't make weight.
Right. He should be able to make 170, but
Right.
he's not. He's got to not be disciplined.
Yeah, but that's on you. Now you have to fight people
that are bigger, faster, stronger,
taller,
just as
lankier,
skilled.
longer. Yeah, just as skilled. So that's a him problem. But again, we've had plenty of conversations about this. We're very lively about this issue. It's unhealthy for the fighter, and number one, it's unhealthy, and it could get them seriously hurt. Number two, the idea to take money away, especially in UFC,
dudes don't care.
I
mean, you do care.
You're doing something,
but it's like that's not a harsh enough penalty.
Right. And also,
because if you go out there and you can go out there, a lot of times I think the numbers on dudes that miss weight, they more oftentimes win anyways.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like. You get that win, and if it's impressively, like people don't make that big of a deal if you really miss the weight all that much. If you go out there and win, then you're propped up to make weight next time, hopefully, and go fight a number one contender. Like
they make there's not a penalty, and plus the other thing too is like we're already forgetting about
step
the other
in and
fighter.
Be like you're done.
The other fighter made the weight. You can't make the weight. Again, they don't want to like cancel the fight out, but there has to be a harsher penalty. Like, listen, you're going to fight. We're not going to even count this fight. If this person, like I would say, this person wins and they made the weight, they get the dub.
Right.
If they lose, no one's getting no mark.
Right.
That person doesn't walk away with a scathe and you lost. You can say whatever you want, but the fact is you didn't make weight. Oh, and the other thing too is you're not getting paid. So you can either cancel the fight out because you're not getting paid, but guess what? There's going to be a mark going on to the next fight.
Right.
Because it's a bunch of nonsense. Listen, if it happens once, it's no big deal. You'll still have to take the penalty because you didn't make the weight. But the thing is that the incentive is we're putting on fights to make them fair. This is unfair. This is the rules. That's it. Let's stop beating around the bush about, take a little bit of money away, get the fight, and then these guys still win and no one says anything about it. The thing is that if you can't make the weight, there's an issue. You shouldn't be at this weight class. But there's another issue too. It's a health issue from number one. So this person made weight. Let's stop fucking around with this idea where it's like, it's no big deal. No, it is a big deal. Then why have weight classes?
Right.
Let's just go back to old school UFC where it's a 245-pound guy against Royce Gracie. Let's just do that then. Let's go back to the old school shit. That's why there's weight classes. There's a reason for it. There should be a harsher, stiffer penalty. And if not, and another thing, if that fighter wants to cancel that fight because he didn't make weight, he's not getting paid. Again, when you move on down the road, it's going to be like, why am I not getting title shots against this guy at this weight class? Well, guess what? You can't make weight. So if you want to be treated like an adult, you got to act like an adult. This is professional boxing, professional fighting, UFC.
And it's funny we talked about weight because here's the final fight we're going to talk about before we switch gears is Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington, which is hilarious because Kamaru Usman might be the biggest welterweight we've ever seen. He's just ungodly huge. But I think Colby Covington's one of those dudes who, in my opinion, proves that he's one of those guys where I think he's found the right weight class. So Colby Covington is a guy that could probably make 55. Right? He's 5'11". He's like a little more slender than a lot of these guys. He's built more like what like your average like smaller athlete kind of looks like. But he could probably fight at 55, and he has the wrestling, and he would have the wrestling and the strength and the size advantage over some dudes at 55, right? But I think he's a tweener. Like if there was 165, Colby Covington probably would fight at 165. But he fights at 170, and he's ultra skilled, got cardio and all these other things. This fight was fucking amazing, and I was bummed that you didn't get to see it. This fight was a fucking dogfight, straight up dogfight. And one thing I came out of it realizing is this was definitely Kamaru Usman's, like they say, coming out party. Kamaru didn't beat a lot of good guys leading into this fight besides Tyron. And honestly, I don't even want to get started about Tyron Woodley. All I'll say about Tyron Woodley is this. Tyron Woodley needs to shut the fuck up about being the greatest welterweight of all time. You can't be mad that you lost to Kamaru Usman when you come in with the same game plan to fight guys all the time. My name's Tyron Woodley. I'm going to back up against the fence against good wrestlers and hope I can blast you with one counter shot. When he fought Kamaru Usman, he got beat just as much as Kamaru Usman beat him because he let one of the best wrestlers, one of the most athletic dudes in the division, walk up on him and just take him down the whole fight and impose his will on him. It was trash. Woodley talks about his fight IQ, non-existent against Usman. That was his best win leading into this fight, right? Colby beat like 3 or 4 really good guys coming in this fight. He beat Robbie Lawler. He beat Damian Maia. He beat, Rafael Dos Anjos, who went up to 170. He was torching dudes. This fight was off the chains, but Kamaru Usman right now is the best welterweight on the planet. Not only is he the champ, he looked way better in this fight than he looked against Woodley, and Woodley's one of the best welterweights ever. He is. If you look at the skills and what he brings athletic wise and stuff, if Woodley was smarter in his fights and had better game plans, Woodley could probably beat either of these guys. He's got the skills, the athleticism to do it. His game plans just suck. Usman was a monster. So this fight, basically, they fought in a fucking phone booth. They met, dude, it was off the chain. They met in the middle of the cage, and Colby, too, proved yet again that he's serious. That kid can fucking fight. Kamaru Usman blasted him with one of the heaviest straight rights you'll ever see in the middle of a fight. Tactically, you can't even really break down this fight too much. They just stood in front of each other and just threw everything but the kitchen sink with bad intentions. It was simple how Kamaru won, though. Kamaru let Colby, he met him halfway and let Colby do his thing, and Kamaru's jab was educated. It was on point, and he just didn't fall for any of the pit. Like Colby was trying to use feints, and he like kept feinting like he was going to do a takedown and stuff. Kamaru Usman was just peppering him with this nasty, like George St. Pierre type, powerful jab, bap, bap. And at one point, I think it was the second or third round, Sensor and I replayed it. Dude, he hit Colby Covington with one of the nastiest straight punches you'll ever see. That shit looked like a mechanical piston, and it went straight across Colby's jaw, broke Colby's jaw. Colby goes back to the corner and goes, I broke my jaw to my coach. I can't talk all stuff. But how gangster Colby is, people need to stop hating on that kid. That kid fought the rest of that fight with a broken jaw and was getting pelted in the face. Never gave up. Towards the tail end, Kamaru hit him with another straight right, dropped him. Some people think it shouldn't have been stopped because Colby was like going for single leg and stuff, and Kamaru was pelting him with some shots to the side and the back of the head. But Colby was fucking battered. He fucked Colby up. And I think this fight was one of those classic fights where two dudes really wanted it, and Kamaru just dug a little bit deeper and was just stay in the pocket and he just grinded out. Stayed calm, was just like, I'm gonna fucking show this kid how deep I'm willing to go. He beat the fuck out of Colby. And Colby had his moments. Colby landed a lot of shots, but I don't think he was ready for Kamaru's power. He felt Kamaru's power was like, fuck, I got to deal with this every time I come in to land punches.
So again, Usman, like when I used to watch him fight,
he's evolved so much.
Yeah. I never was totally impressed.
It's like he could wrestle, but
yeah. But there was no motor, not in a hurry. Kind of like never was impressive to me. When he fought Woodley, I didn't think he would win that fight.
I didn't think so either.
Only because I just thought like he brings a blah type of game.
Yeah, he bumbles forward, tries to take dudes down.
So
you knew what the game plan was.
Yeah, and Woodley does that. Like Woodley thinks
he's going to hit you once
against
and
the
blast
guys
you.
in the UFC. He thinks he's like the best wrestler, and that's what got him into trouble with the Usman fight. He went right over there, pulled his ass to the ground, and he realized he couldn't get up, he couldn't move, and it was like, it was one of the worst game plans I've ever seen, ever, for a guy to just let some guy. He let Usman
Bully him.
Just have him in the corner and let him position himself to like pull his legs out, pull his arms out, and just slowly, methodically just beat him down.
And here's something I will say as a side note. Being someone that's been training martial arts for a decade now, like consistently MMA for a decade now, I've gone up against and sparred against dudes that are really good wrestlers. No matter how good you are at defending takedowns, if your game plan is to strike against a dude that grapples that well, in MMA, most takedowns are happen against the fence. Mm-hmm. Whenever you fight a guy that's good at grappling, you need to have confidence in your takedown defense. You need to meet them in the middle of the cage and force them to try to take you down without the fence on your back. And there was times where Woodley would throw punches at Kamaru, and Kamaru wouldn't defend properly. He'd just like jump out of the way, and like Woodley would like, even there was one point Woodley feinted a right hand, faked like he was gonna throw a right hand at him. Kamaru bounced back into the middle of the cage. It's like, Woodley, if you just meet him forward and throw fucking punches at him, your asshole's not gonna be on the fence. Like, what about that do you not understand? You gotta meet wrestlers halfway and force them to fucking really work for takedowns against you. You have to. You don't fucking stand on the fence and let the dude take you down.
But the problem is that Woodley's a wrestler too.
Yeah, so he underestimated that wrestling. Wrestling chops.
So his, and when this is the Roy Jones Jr. effect. When guys think they have ultimate power, they in a sense become blood drunk over the power. They think that they're so fast and got so much power and they got one punch power that they feel like that is the overarching thing that they can roll out there. And sometimes it is. But you have to understand is that some of these guys can take a punch. And when you...
Kobe can. Jesus.
Right. So
did you see his face after?
Yes.
Oh, God.
If that's the game that you want to live in or play with. So Woodley runs around, and again, he keeps bringing that game plan. What he did with what's his name, the karate dude.
Stephen Thompson.
Yeah,
Wonder
Boy. So he wants to keep bringing that same fight plan with him to the other fights, and it's like Wonder Boy's different. Because his posture's different. He kicks a lot. He stands.
He's always out of the way.
Yeah. And his feet aren't the same like a boxer. He's not. It's not boxer pose position, and he switches stances or whatever. So at that point, what he did was he kind of laid back, picked and popped, and then dragged him to the ground. But you can't do that against these other fighters. And again, Usman just never was a high motor type of guy. So why would you invite him to fight sort of a fight that was his speed? Like he put the speed at Usman's speed, and so he was just over there, pushed him against the fence, dragged him down, and just sort of mauled him around. And I'm like, oh, but you think the counter to that is this one punch power? Are you nuts? He's dragging the energy out of you. And then when you get up on your feet, like, you're clearly going to need to do more than just one punch. This guy physically
is an animal.
He's more like, yeah, you're cut, but this dude,
he's huge.
He's cut all
and
over
cut,
the
athletic.
So you think that this guy, and even though some of his fights early on were very unimpressive, the dude can hang in there. He doesn't just go away.
Oh, dude, yeah, he's a beast. He took all of Covington's shots. Like, he's just a fucking animal. If Kamaru Usman fights the way he fought against Kobe, continuously, and if he keeps improving, dude, I don't know if any dude at 170 is going to beat him. And I don't think Jorge should take that fight against him. Jorge can make so much money if he fights Conor. Supposedly Conor wants Jorge if he gets past Cerrone. Listen, dude, if you want a payday, listen. Jorge's established that he's the number one contender at 170. But no matter what, he's the number one contender. If I was Jorge, I think Jorge destroys Conor. I really do. I think Conor, prediction, Cerrone does not fight good against dudes that are unorthodox and come forward. Cerrone's like 0-7 against guys that come forward on him. Personally, I'm not like this Conor McGregor fan or whatever. I think Conor's going to walk forward and club Cerrone in one round. I think he's going to come forward and Cerrone's going to get backed up and he's going to plant that piston left hand on Cerrone and knock him out. First round knockout.
I just don't think, I don't, like, to me.
The styles, I don't think the styles match up.
And Masvidal's, like, ascending.
He's phenomenal.
I don't see where Conor fits in.
Well, because Conor wants to. I think when that it's because it's going to make so much money, dude. Masvidal is such a star right now. The UFC, if Conor gets past, I'm saying if I'm Masvidal's manager, and I'm not saying it fits. Money wise, it fits for the UFC. They're like, yo, if Conor gets past Cerrone, we can do fucking Ireland versus fucking Cuba, fucking Street Jesus versus Conor McGregor. It'll make a lot of money. And I think Masvidal is gonna smash Conor if they fight. But that's a huge payday. I think if they do fight, he could smash Conor and then go fight Usman and try to get his title.
No. Like, okay, this is.
And I think the problem is I think Usman beats. I think Usman beats Masvidal.
Like, the only problem I have with that is this is sort of a boxing thing.
They're gonna do it.
If they like to me, like if you're like if I had a boxer, and then it's like, well, let's fight this dude. Like it's presented to me, let's fight a dude like Conor, who, like, he left, came back, lost a couple times. So let's fight him while we're ascending past everyone. Let's go backwards to go fight him to go get to the belt. Now,
is it backwards though?
Yes.
Do you think it's backwards? If Conor torches Cerrone, he's like the biggest draw in the UFC.
No. Yes, it's backwards.
And I think people underestimate how good of a fighter Conor is too.
No.
He's a top 3, top 5 guy in both those divisions right now.
Because here's the thing: as soon as he comes back, he gets top level fights. But since coming back after the boxing, what is his record?
He's 0-1 against Khabib.
Conor. But then what? He lost to Nick Diaz.
No, that was before.
Okay, before.
They're 1-1 against each other. He fought Diaz twice. He won the second fight, then lost to Floyd. He won against the second fight with Diaz. He beat Diaz by decision. Then he loses to Floyd, which it's whatever. You knew that was about money. But then he loses against Khabib. Had a couple moments there, but he mostly got dominated. And now he's looking to make his comeback.
So I don't.
Which is going down against Cerrone.
Well, I think who's the guy that he got into the thing in the back of the ring after he won his fight? That British dude, right? That's African.
Conor? Oh, Jorge. Leon Edwards.
Right.
Kamaru wants to fight Leon Edwards. He doesn't want to fight Masvidal.
No, right. So Masvidal. But Leon Edwards was in the back.
He's still kind of
right.
He's not a top 5 guy. I don't know what the ranking is.
He's in the back. So then he wanted to generate that fight with Masvidal. When they really asked Masvidal, he was like, "No, I'm not worried about that bum. I'm going forward." To keep going forward is Masvidal wants to go for the belt. To have Conor win. Again, I think it's Asgren he put out in 2 seconds.
That shit was fucking funny.
He beat Darren Till,
which is crazy,
with a high level feint into a punch that just fucking rolled.
The switch overhand,
right. So I think again, I'm not saying it's not a good. It wouldn't be good for the pay-per-view. I'm just saying, if I was a guy managing Masvidal, I would say
you're
going backwards to go forwards. Why would you do that when it's like You already have everything.
I guess it just depends on what Masvidal wants. Because at times he says he doesn't care about titles.
Right. But right from the beginning, he wants his title shot. That's why he was Stewart. That's why he was like, no, dude, you're behind me, not in front of me. Why would I go backwards to go forward?
Edwards. I love Masvidal. Keep It G Real podcast. We're huge Masvidal supporters. Masvidal's the fucking man. I guess part of me would like to see him go get paid and fight Conor, because I feel like he'd get paid so much. Part of it is because I don't, and I know everyone doubts him. No one thought he was going to beat Till. I don't see him beating Kamaru Usman. Right. He's a more well-rounded fighter, you could argue, but I think Kamaru can he's just too strong good. I think he'd just take George down and beat him up.
Covington, he grinded his way to go get his title shot.
Right.
So Masvidal is grinding his way to go get his title shot. Conor McGregor was already there, and he's took it a step back. Again, like, if you want your title shot, I know for the money they want to make that shit happen sooner than later. But there's no benefit.
Dude, if Jorge beat Usman, that'd be wild.
Yeah, but there's no benefit to throw Conor back into a title shot.
Well, he's gonna fight Khabib no matter what. If he beats Cerrone, he's getting the title shot against Nurmagomedov if he wants it.
Right.
Khabib's like, I refuse to fight him, but you don't got a choice.
Right. So, but the thing is that to have him to start just leapfrogging people again, sometimes, like, this is where UFC is better.
Well, you can make the argument he's going to leapfrog people if he gets the shot at Khabib, because Gaethje's the most deserving after the Khabib Ferguson fight.
Right, but because of the hoopla after the fight,
right,
and the talk between the
huge.
fight, right, they're going to make that happen. But again, like, if you really seriously, if you exit that stuff out, really, Conor McGregor should just be a guy. If you're going to rate him within the top 10, he needs to fight a couple guys within the top 10 before he makes his jump up there. That's just the way you should do it. But I get it. It's a money thing. I get it.
What do you think his chances are against Usman, though? Masvidal. I just feel like if Usman comes out with the right game plan, he could probably just hold Masvidal down and beat his ass up.
I don't know, because
I would love it if Masvidal came out, just fucked Usman up, dude. I would fucking have a heart attack.
No, but the thing is, he could. One thing that is, like, okay,
dude, if that fight happens, we gotta fucking get together for that shit. I'm taking the night off.
Masvidal, underrated power.
Underrated boxing. He might be the best boxer in that division. Either division. Nasty boxing.
He like, with Till, he set that punch up. He kept setting it up, and he just ducked under,
just reading him,
and went bam. Till didn't even know where it was coming from.
Oh yeah, he didn't see it coming. His head was just straight up. The dunk.
Right. And a little bit, I think Till has taken a step back.
Well, I think a lot of that is, like we said, the weight cutting. I think there's no excuse for Till to still be undefeated.
Right.
Could Till beat Masvidal if he was healthy on his best day? For sure.
But
he's fighting up at 185 now.
But again, they went. It wasn't first round. They got into the round, and then Masvidal was able to do that.
Integrate it.
That's
download all the info and take them out.
But that's sort of a guy that's a really good boxer.
He's cerebral.
To like, oh, I got this, and knew, like, when he went to do that and attack that, it was dip, and he already had it. It was wide open.
He knew it was there.
It just laid
committed to it, and he went straight through it. Boop, boop, boop.
And so the thing is that, again, Usman, like you said, has moved.
God, Usman's scary, dude.
From what he was to what he is now, he's moved.
He's evolved so much, man.
He's evolved. But does Masvidal's stand-up game, which is a game where he could sit there.
Let's be real. He could probably knock Usman out if he's on point.
Like, to me, the way I'm judging this is Usman has gotten a lot better, but can you go in there with a high level fighter like Masvidal? Again, he was able to trade with Covington, who wanted to stand in the middle with him, as you're saying. But do you want to get in a kind of cerebral thing with a guy that's not going to just stand in front of you? He's going to come at different places.
Give you different angles and looks.
When you get to the later rounds, are you going to be focused enough to understand that this guy does work his way into figuring things out?
He's just always just downloading the info.
Yeah. I'll attack you this way.
Like Floyd, it's the Floyd-esque.
Remember? Okay, so remember Miocic when he fought
DC, which is funny because I said the reason why DC was going to beat him the first time is because Stipe doesn't know how to make adjustments, and then Stipe made adjustments the second time, and then DC didn't adjust to the adjustments.
Right. So what I always liked
that's great that you remembered that.
What I always liked about DC is he was always working on the boxing. Elevating the boxing.
God,
he knows
DC's
he can get you. You know he can get you with taking you down. He can drag the fight out. But with Miocic, he knew immediately what he wanted, and he was like, "This is what we're working on." We kept doing this because we wanted to set this up to get to that. Miocic was standing there, and remember, Miocic did rock him early. He does have that ability to do that, and Miocic did get rocked a little bit early, fading around. But here's the thing. Once DC was able to to see what was coming, downloaded the information, ducked under, came over the top, it was game. Can Usman weather that storm? Because that's the type of fighter he's going to fight. But he's going to fight a better fighter on his feet that knows how to box and knows how to get to those spots. Or knows
it has every tool and tactic in the book.
Set you up to get sort of the things he wants. Might not be knockout,
right?
But we'll set it up so that he will make it very difficult.
He mauled Nate, dude. That was masterclass. He just mauled Nate. He beat Nate to every spot, knew where to be to take him out, and was more aggressive. He likes to counter. He's pushing Nate up against the fence, beating him up. He looked so good against Nate.
So, we've seen this small little sample of Usman being high level. Is this what he's going to bring in, or is he going to try to go slow, methodical like himself before? He's good at wrestling. He can throw a heavy hand. But this is not going to be someone standing in front of you. Right. It's going to be someone that's going to be trying to figure you out. Does he have the ability to do the same thing? And if that fight comes together and comes together soon, you're gonna see what Usman's about. Not so much Masvidal. We know what Masvidal is. We're gonna see what Usman's about, and he's gonna have a hell of a time keeping that belt around his waist. I'm not predicting a W either way. I'm just saying
that matchup
going to
wild.
if you like the sweet science of fighting / sweet science of the inner workings inside of a fight, that's going to be your fight, because you're gonna want to see what in Usman, who's going to show up in the ring, and then you're going to see what Masvidal. It's Masvidal's ability either to put on pressure. He knows how to jumpstart the fight, and he knows how to kind of gear down and get into the middle and kind of figure things out. Can Usman really, if that fight was to materialize, can Usman, is his mental ability in fighting, is it high level enough to figure that out and to get a W? That will be. But clearly we know Usman is physically and, yes, the best welterweight out there right now. Woodley might have something to say about that, but I don't think it's anywhere close.
Yeah, Woodley's problem is he's up there. It's just, honestly, I just never thought he was that tactical of a fighter. He talks a lot about it, but he's had pretty much the same game plan his whole entire career. When one of the fights where he fought Wonderboy, he came forward and made Wonderboy really have to work to get his distance, and he beat Wonderboy up and won. But other than that, it's fought the same way. I really think Usman's really going to be in there with a dude that's a real fighter who's been around every aspect of fighting, whether it's fighting in the street over dumb shit or getting paid however much to fight in these underground backyard brawls. Jorge's been fighting dudes bigger, more athletic than him forever, and he's so cerebral. He's a tactician. Nothing phases him. He's fighting a real fighter if he fights Masvidal.
Again, like with Woodley against Wonderboy. Woodley knew he had the power to get a punch over to knock him out. This is what sort of makes fights. Usman could have went into the fight with Covington and was like, yo, this guy will stand toe-to-toe with me, but I don't believe he can knock me out. If he was to walk in the ring with Masvidal, he already knows, and Masvidal knows, and that's sometimes where the fight is won before the fight even starts. He knows Masvidal can knock him out with a punch.
Right.
And sometimes that ends up being the determining factor, like Wonderboy. Wonderboy also, we gotta take a hit against Wonderboy. He likes to do all that stuff against fighters he knows that he can dominate the fight with. But with Woodley, he was a little bit passive. In both fights, he's passive, bouncing around and choosing and picking shots. Even in the second fight, when it's like that, what you're doing is you're giving confidence to the other fighter to know that he has something that you're looking out for. If you're always going to be on the back of your toes waiting for a punch to come over, 9 times out of 10, that punch is going to get over.
Right.
Because that's what you're looking for. But when you go into a fight with a guy that can knock you out, those game plans change.
Right. You got to be cognizant of it.
Right. So Usman can go in with the fight with Covington.
Because you knew Kobe was just going to come forward and just throw everything but the kitchen sink. It was a battle of wills.
Right. You know that the dude is going to bring it. That's not a problem.
Which he was impressive. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, you know the dude's going to bring it. But you know, and you can watch film and stuff like that.
That he's just going to bring it.
He's just going to bring it. He's not going to, unless you made a colossal mistake, he's not going to knock you out with one of those punches. But you know that he's going to bring it. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at you, and he's going to empty the tank. But do you take that same game plan where you want to trade with someone? Of course not. Because even in the Woodley fight, he was tactical in the beginning and then realized that Woodley was just gonna I don't know. It was way underwhelming for Woodley.
Yeah, it was bad.
He should not ever say anything about Usman because to me,
or say Woodley he's the greatest welterweight of all time.
I've never seen anything. He didn't bring nothing.
Nope.
He didn't bring anything.
He just laid like a lame duck on the fence and just let Usman control him.
So he really has nothing to say about that. So and to say that you're the best welterweight, no. Clearly he didn't watch the tape. You bring nothing, and he overwhelmed you and didn't have to do
beat
much
you everywhere.
Yeah, didn't have. So again, the game plan changes. You will see a different Usman knowing that Masvidal, with the hands. We're not even talking about the feet, because Masvidal obviously knocked out Askren with a knee.
He's just knocked everybody out.
But is that like what type of game plan is Usman gonna come into that fight? That would be interesting.
Right. It's gonna be super interesting. We're gonna switch gears, and the basketball season's still young, and I feel like we could, since we're so early in the season, we could probably save, because we got a little farther into once we could talk about the fight game, it usually gets stretched out.
Yeah.
But I think we could gloss over the basketball stuff. We could talk about basketball as we get, because like the basketball season's still young. Like, we got to get a little farther to see shit still got to shape up. My Grizzlies are, starting to itch back to being 500. And Jay can suck it. Well, yeah, we're going to get into looking at the NFL. I got a little something special we're going to talk about at the end, but for the majority of what's left, because I got to go to work at 4, we're going to talk about the current playoff picture in the NFL.
Yep.
I think this has a chance to be such a blast of a playoffs. I really do. And I think what you see here is how this playoff picture is going to look. That's my opinion. You got some good teams that are in the hunt. But I really think what you see now is pretty much similar to how the playoffs are going to look at the end of the day. So right now, in the AFC, we have the Ravens locked up as number 1 seed at 12-2. We have the Patriots locked in at the 2 seed at 11-3. In contrast, we have the NFC Seahawks 11-3. They're the number 1 seed. I said that at the beginning of the year that I thought the Seahawks were going to go to the Super Bowl. Will they go Super Bowl? Who knows? Well, they got number 1 seed. Packers are still 11-3, the number 2 seed. In the AFC, right now, if the playoffs started tomorrow, the Steelers are the 6th seed. They'd be playing the 3 seed Chiefs. Bills would be taking on the Texans, 5th and 4th seed. Anton's Vikings over here, dude. What you know about Swaggy, bro? Dude, I'm telling you. It's his chance. It's his chance to prove the doubters wrong. Big game Swaggy is coming to the playoffs, dude.
Okay, so like if we're going to
Well, they're playing the Saints if it ends, and then we got the 49ers would be playing the Cowboys if it ended today.
Okay.
Let's start with the AFC, the first AFC matchups. What do you think about the Steelers of the Chiefs? Personally, Mike Tomlin should get the Coach of the Year award. I'm on that train. That team's lost tons of their players. They managed to be 8-6 right now. I think they'll finish. I think they'll finish 9-7. But I still think they get in. I don't think the Titans are hot right now, but I'd have to look to see who they're playing. But say if the Steelers play the Chiefs, I like the Chiefs. They have the better quarterback. They're overall better team. But what do you think about the Steelers and the Chiefs matchup?
So if it was going to happen like that today, and again, the Steelers, again, 2 of these playoff teams that are the Bills are in. So
They're in.
They're in. So the Steelers lost the head-to-head with them. Here's what I don't like about the Steelers, and I think this will play out more than what I do like about them. They've ridden a high off this quarterback, but if you saw some of the game, they did a projection where their quarterback doesn't throw beyond 20 yards.
Right.
And really, most of the time, he throws way underneath 10 yards when he passes the ball. Like a good percentage of the time. The issue with that is that they try to do running back by committee, and they got the wide receivers. But they have a really solid offensive line. The defense plays pretty solid. That's how they always kind of make their way into the playoffs. And Tomlin's actually a defensive coach, and he sort of oversees that. He's always going to bring a good defense, despite some of his shortcomings.
Might trip a couple of people.
So the issue I have with them, even before we get into talking about the matchup with the Chiefs, I could easily see them being bounced out. And only because
I think they're the clear-cut team to get bounced out.
Right. Only because clearly, and by the record, and by the Titans being right there.
You mean bounced out of playoff contention?
But like not even in the playoffs.
Not even the play. If one team does make it in, it's obviously the Texans. They're playing Titans. They're playing so hot right now.
Right. But here's number one.
Fucking Tana legend.
Titans have a weaker division that they play in.
I think the Titans might be the better team on paper too.
Yeah, and the Steelers, the problem with the Steelers is that you're rolling with your backup quarterback.
Third string quarterback.
Right. So the thing is that's nice. But in the loss, and let's not get it wrong, Bills have one of the better defenses in the league, if not one of the top defense in the league. They shut you down, and they make you grind it out. So the problem is with the Steelers is like they sort of try to build off of defense, and their offense kind of puts points on the board. But when you have Bev Roethlisberger and he could chuck it downfield, and they can put 28 points on the board, 30-something points on the board, it kind of helps them out. This quarterback doesn't play like that. It's a chip and charge type of game. And I don't you might want that when you get into the playoffs, but in the regular season, that's tough to play. That's tough to get yourself into the playoffs because that's not consistency. But if we're dealing with this matchup with the Chiefs, let's be honest. There's just whether the Chiefs are at home and there's a fucking blizzard, whether it's a nice day out, and clearly there would be the higher seed if they go about doing their business. They're going to be the higher seed at the 3rd seed, unless they can leapfrog the Patriots. But remember, they have the tiebreaker against the Patriots.
True.
So
if they end up having the same record,
right,
they'll be
the Chiefs in second place. So they're clearly not out of second place. But so whether we put the Chiefs or the Patriots here, the issue is going to be is even if the Steelers get to this point, I don't think they're getting out of this fucking spot.
Yeah, I don't think so. They're toast. Too much speed and skill on the offensive side of the ball for the Chiefs.
And another thing with the Steelers, let's talk and let's talk about this. Let's get this out the way. Home field advantage for a lot of these northern teams is a huge factor. By them not being at home, yes, even you play the Chiefs or the Patriots.
Arrowhead, you got to go into Arrowhead, bro. Arrowhead's historically one of the hardest places to play. It's not, dude.
Now, like again,
dude, that's such a dope stadium name too. Arrowhead,
even with the elements, Mahomes can still swing the ball around. They still have better athletes. Let's say if it was a blizzard out. Tyreek Hill with one kick return or punt return, and this game is over.
You know who's going to help seal the deal in this game? You watch the Honey Badger. He's going to be on them underneath routes, dude. He's going to be picking somebody off. It's Delvin Hodgkins, dude. Like he's playing great this year. Told you, Adam, he'd play great this year.
Again, the Steelers, they play a more chip and charge type of game with this type of quarterback. That's a little bit easier to read. Sometimes in the playoffs, depending on the elements, depending on what type of game you're playing, you want to play a defensive battle. Sometimes that does work against the right team. Maybe with the Patriots, that work a little bit better. But with the Chiefs and their explosion, you're going to have to, if they get up or you're doing trading back and forth, I would trust the Chiefs more than I would trust the Steelers. Okay, so let's look at the other AFC matchup with
Bills and Texans. And I think that's going to be solid. I think that's going to be the matchup. Okay. I don't think anyone hops in there.
Okay, so but again, the Bills still have the potential to get the Patriots. So it's not a lock for the Patriots to get this division.
True.
But I'm pretty sure it's going to stay the
I think
same
so too.
Here. Here's the issue.
Texans are a scary team to play, dude, because you never know. Like, dude, Deshaun Watson might just show up and throw 5 touchdowns.
But here's the issue: the Bills become that much more of the team looks a lot better if they were playing at home around this time.
Ooh, they're gonna have to play on the road.
They're gonna have to play on the road, and it's indoors. The defense is still good. They'll play anywhere. The issue is I would like them, just like the old Bills teams when they used to have the home field advantage.
Uncle Frank?
Yeah, Frank Wright,
Frank
Kelly. Gore. It doesn't matter. Their ability to play at home and in the playoffs and drag those teams out, no matter who it is, it always is an advantage for the home team. Buffalo. They got their home fans, they got the elements out there, and it just plays better in their favor. On the road, but here's the thing. Texas defense could be a little bit shaky at times. Also, Bills defense is that fucking good.
It is.
That they don't need a lot from Allen and the offense. And the Bills have enough of weapons on the offense to, if you really need to, and Allen gets into a thing. Remember, he can run. He can move around. He can move the pocket. They set up a decent game plan. Sean McDermott, with this team and his defense, they can beat any of these teams that are in here.
If they played to the best of their ability.
If they played. Again, the only thing...
I think it's going to come down to whose quarterback plays better.
The only thing I don't like is I prefer the Bills to be at home. So, if anything, they got to shoot to get that number 2 seed. Beat the Patriots, get that division. But if they don't, this pretty much could be a 50-50 toss-up. I would prefer the advantage of if the Bills could get at home, and get a first round bye. But if that was the case, it would move the Patriots down where the Chiefs are, and a tiebreaker with the Chiefs would actually push the Patriots down to 5th if the Bills took that division.
Oh, that is true.
So if they end up in a tie, the tiebreaker would put the Chiefs above the Patriots.
That's interesting.
But that could shake up. It could not. I wouldn't suggest that.
Could you imagine a Patriots and Bills playoff game? That'd be off the chain, dude.
Again, you throw everything out the window. They know each other. And
the Bills know the Patriots, all right.
The problem with the Patriots and the problem that they had with the Bills this year is their defense can get after you. And they've got some up front linebackers and in the corners. I mean, it's a loaded team, and they go out with the intention of making you put a goose egg out there.
Right.
I do like the Bills defensively. I like that they do enough on offense, and they do have talent. They got speed and talent. Allen is kind of the...
I don't care what anyone says. He has times where he's inconsistent. There's times where he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and there's times where, he'll make mistakes.
I've seen, and it's been this year, and obviously in this area, they put Buffalo on everywhere. So if you miss the games, it's just because you don't care about football. Where he's good at, he can run, he can move the pocket. If he's able to give himself time to
a clear pocket, he could drive it.
He can drive the ball, he can get it out there. One of the games he was playing, and I can't remember who he was playing. Cincinnati. So
I was there. He almost got in a fight.
He runs around, and what does he do? He throws a ball that he should have just threw out of bounds. What does he do? He throws it across himself.
Pulls an Eli.
And pick. And so it turned the game into them clearly winning into...
To it being close.
To damn close. So it goes to the sidelines, and the offense coordinator is like, he was like, calm the fuck down.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. He was yelling at him.
He was yelling at him. He was like, yo, you got to...
Relax.
Because, relax. And it was like, he tries to do too much. But if they were smart, they would already get in front of him. They already know they're in the playoffs. These next couple weeks when he's playing, you got to deliver a decent game plan, get him comfortable, but let him run stuff that you're going to have him run in the playoffs. Certain plays that are similar. He's good at rolling around. Remember, he got a running touchdown last week. Give him, they got up there, let him run in, got all pumped up. But sometimes he needs some of that. The team really likes him. He's just a little bit erratic. But that doesn't concern me in the Texans game if this was to play out, the playoffs were to look like this. What would bother me is them being on the road. I think overall, and Deshaun Watson being at home, and again, you still got to go out there and stop Hopkins. You still got to go out there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They got so much fucking firepower.
They can spread this.
They can just hang it up on any defense.
So,
they've had a couple games where they roll in there, and I didn't start Watson in fantasy against good defenses, and he just hung up 35 on them. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ.
So it has the ability of that. But I do, if I was to say it, even if the Bills were going to play at the Texans, I would still throw it up as a pick'em.
So you think that's a pick'em?
I would think that's a pick'em.
So we're gonna save this one for the last one, but I do think the Cowboys beat the Eagles this weekend. I just think they're the better football team. The Eagles are way too injured. They just have so many injuries. I really, really believe in my bones that the Cowboys win their last two games.
So you're saying that the Cowboys are going to go into Philadelphia and win that game?
I think they're going to go into Philly and win that game. I think they're gonna do their game plan exactly what they did this week against the fucking Rams. They need to stop being punanis. Dude, I've been watching the Cowboys games, right? Because of fantasy purposes, I got Zeke. Every single game, they run the ball in the first half, and they get leads on dudes. And what do? They decide to just throw the ball the whole second half. Now, here's the thing. I think we're both in agreement as to how important the quarterback is. And at the end of the day, when you get into these high-level playoff games or these games where you're trying to get in the playoffs, the games end up being tight most of the time. And at the end of the day, your ability to win games, a lot of times, I don't care about, you can say people could say clock management, and Adam's just like, oh, it's about clock management and run the football. That is a part of it. But sometimes, dude, especially when you're playing behind, you got to step up and make throws, right? But I think the Cowboys get away from that in the second half, realizing if you are running the ball and you're playing balanced and that's working, why go away with it? If you go away with it, you're then in positions to have to be forced to make crazy throws. They're always winning in the first half because they're running Zeke. Zeke's out here the whole entire first half, and then they just come out in the second half. They're like, we're going to sit in shotgun. We're just going to throw the ball all over the place. And then their defense is not as good as people think it is right now. They're not playing. On paper, that defense is good. How they're playing is not good. I do really think after last week's showing against the Rams are a good team. They fucking ran. What, didn't both Pollard and Zeke have over 100 yards rushing? Something like that.
Could be something.
Dude,
like
they got to do that. That's their identity. You need to pound the ball, play action pass. There's no excuse for the offensive line. You need to pound the fucking football. And when you get into situations where you have to make a throw, I'm confident Dak can make some throws. But you can't go out there and just be like, let's get away from what was making us win in the first half and tell Dak to play like Drew Brees. Dak's not that guy. He's great. I think he's a really good player. But if being balanced is working, stay balanced. If it's working, like, stay balanced until it's not working, and then go, okay, now we got to throw the football.
Okay, so
if they play the way they played against the Rams, they're going to win out and they're going to be in the playoffs.
So I got a couple of issues with Dallas, and
I got some issues with him too.
Oh no, I got quite a few. I just don't like Dallas.
Jason Garrett sucks.
I've never liked Dallas. I will always profess my hatred for Dallas.
Oh, so you hate Dallas?
I don't. Well, actually, I really don't hate them.
Goddamn, fucking Dante Culpepper.
No, I don't hate them. I just don't understand why you can go everywhere in the United States and there's a retarded Dallas fan out there. Oh, sorry about.
We got some.
I misuse the term. Mentally challenged Dallas fans.
Touched Dallas fans.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. Mom, you're a Broncos fan. Quiet down.
So what? The first year I chose them, they won the fucking Super Bowl, bitch.
Say that again.
The first time I picked them to go against Mr. Chapman, the biggest dick in the world who likes Cowboys, I said, guess what? I'm not going with your team. I'm picking the Broncos, and they won that year.
Hold on, it's like trivia. Who was the quarterback at the time?
I don't friggin'
You know who was the quarterback at the time? John.
Oh, ELROY.
Elway. John Elway.
ELROY.
John Elroy. Yo, we
Hall
got
of
to
Famer.
of John Elroy now.
It was Dallas, right?
Yeah, remember? I had all the
Okay,
posters
so
on my
I got
wall.
that right.
John Elroy.
John Elroy, Hall of Famer,
John
legend.
Elroy. That's the name of this episode. John Elroy.
To John Elroy.
Yo,
So-
my mom's crazy.
So with Dallas, I don't hate them. I find like Dallas fans to be everywhere, and they tend to be annoying to me. But let's get back to the real stuff. They keep telling me that there's a lot of talent on this team, and by the way, Vikings got them. So
Swaggy.
So the issue that I have with them is that instead of us always saying that they have talent, the thing is that you have to put the right mix together for them to be a team.
Bill Parcells.
So and by the way, Bill Parcells in his first year took Quincy Carter. They were a 10-6 team and got them to the playoffs in his first year with the Cowboys. So clearly, it's not about the Cowboys and talent. It's actually about who is coaching the team and how you develop talent and how you bring in talent. The issue that they're always going to have is they're always going to have an issue with Jerry Jones because Jerry Jones is not only the owner, but he wants to be the GM. He's not a football guy. That's why he's always going to make silly decisions. It's almost in terms of like he's going to use a lot of analytics, or this guy just looks right, or he's super talented. The problem is that it's more than just talent. Analytics don't work so much in football like they work in other sports, but these guys got to want to play. They got to have heart. Sometimes those are measurables that you have to look into, and that you have to see, like, oh, this player this is kind of his mentality. He's not into it. So when you
coaching is more key than people think.
Right.
You got to be able to motivate dudes and know how to put them in positions to succeed.
And this is
not clapping like Jason Garrett.
So Jason Garrett in NBA terms would be sort of a player coach, or a coach. He's a good coach for the players. They like him. He jokes around. So he's a player's coach. The problem is with that is sometimes you have to rule with an iron fist, and when you present sort of that gravitas, what you end up not doing by not presenting that is that, like, you sort of being able to be rolled over on, or the players don't have to like play as hard and whatever. Sometimes it's like Machiavelli used to say, I would prefer you to hate me but love me, hate me but have respect for me, instead of love me and try to take advantage of me. What you want is that you want to present yourself in a way that you rule with an iron fist, but while ruling in that way, there's a respect that comes with it. That respect turns into, there's a love for me then. So he rules very player coach style, and the problem is that that's the result he's getting. He's getting a 7-7 result right now, because you show up for some games, you don't show up for all games. The main issue I have with the Cowboys is, and I saw this in the Vikings game and I've seen this in their other games, they don't know when to bring the right game plan. So in the one game, the Vikings were like, we're not going to let you run the football. We're going to stuff the run. We're going to make Zeke work for everything he gets. But then what they don't do is they don't open up the offense for Dak. I'm not saying Dak is the greatest quarterback ever. I'm not saying that he's a top 10 quarterback. I'm not saying any of that. But when you clearly don't run the offense in which you're trying to gain or give him confidence, that's how he plays. So in I forgot which game, but one games, it's at the end of the game, and then what they want to do is like, yo, listen, you got to open it up and let Dak just throw the football.
I agree.
That's how you're going to get wins. I mean, you're going to sit here and settle for field goals, and it's like, yo, you got to go out here and, like, yo, that's
within the confines of the game plan.
You have to give that's how you deliver confidence to your guy. Always you want to stifle him when it's time for him. Yo, you got to go out and win us this game. Sorry, we gave you this game in this way, but can you go out and win it for us? No, they run this dialed down shit, and it's like they don't allow Dak to kind of do his thing. That's the main problem I see. And then they overhype everything. Oh, we got this offensive coordinator, blah blah blah. He played in, he's young, blah blah blah. All this other nonsense. Strip all that away. They don't play up to their potential. It has a lot to do with how they're coached, and also it has a lot to do on how they empower their players. We know Zeke is good, but sometimes sometimes when they throw 8-9 in a box, Minnesota did that. You have to have plays to allow Dak to get some things done.
And I don't think the coaching staff is all that smart.
No,
they don't make great adjustments to dudes.
I don't think
guys' game plans and stuff. I think they need new coaching. I've been saying this for years. Jason Garrett should have been gone a while ago. They had a good team back when they had Tony Romo was out there doing his thing, and you couldn't optimize that team either.
They have players.
Got a lot of players.
They don't know how They don't know how to work this personnel.
Right.
You need someone. You need a fresh start. You need someone to come in and evaluate what they have. And clearly, you know what? They've always run this defense, and this is a problem. They have a lot of talent on this defense. They've always run this defense with this mentality that we're kind of just gonna hold people, and we're not aggressive. Not no energy on the defense, and it's very vanilla. It's like they just have a bunch of practice players out there just trying not to let anything break, just trying to hold everything.
Right.
And I'm like, you're not taking advantage of the players that you got.
They have
high level talent on the defense, and they don't unleash these guys.
That whole entire team is stacked. They have one of the best front sevens. Right, you have two of the best young middle linebackers in that front seven, but dudes that can pass rush, right? You have a lockdown corner out of nowhere who used to play safety, Byron Jones. He's one of the best corners in the league. Their only hole on their defense, they probably could use some better safeties, right? Then offensively, you have one of the best wide receivers in the league. You have one of the better young receiving corps in the league. Randall Cobb out there doing his thing. The only thing they need offensively is they probably need an upgraded tight end. So they need an upgraded safety and tight end. Other than that, you have one of the best teams in the league, and I agree with you. Their philosophy on how they're using these players is just not where it needs to be. You know who they need to sign? And I've been saying this ever since he got fired or let go or whatever happened with him. How the fuck does Mike McCarthy not have a job coaching an NFL team? Underrated coach.
He'll get a job.
So where does he go, though? I think he should. If I was him, I wouldn't go to the Cowboys, because I don't want to deal with Jerry Jones and that circus, even though it'd be so enticing because that team's so talented. But where does McCarthy go? Does he go to a team like the Browns? Does he go to New York?
No. He's probably going to the Browns, because the thing is...
There's a lot of talent over there. I'd like to see him coach Baker Mayfield up.
Right. The thing is that, and this will always be a problem with the Cowboys, when your ownership is too involved in the day-to-day stuff. Again, Jimmy Johnson was kicking him out of the boardroom. Bill Parcells was done once they bring in T.O. If you don't allow your coach to bring in sort of the players that he wants to draft and his philosophy, all that person's gonna do is stifle it. And because he's been, had the Cowboys and been around there for a long time, he thinks he's a real football guy. But that's why high-level coaches won't go there, because they can't fully
control what they need to control.
Run their program.
I didn't know he was the GM too until recently. GM. That's fucking stupid.
GM.
He shouldn't be allowed to be the GM. And you know what? To be honest with you, if I was a coach, I wouldn't sign on the dotted line unless I had some guarantees that I had say on picking players. I know there's some good GMs that do some good job picking players. I'm surprised that John Lynch is doing so well as a GM. He picked a lot of good players, but that's a dude who's a Hall of Fame football player, though. That's a dude that knows talent.
Again, it doesn't always work that way.
It doesn't always work that way.
Players no talent, but there was something in him that gave him that someone saw that was like, okay, this guy, and maybe they had a round, maybe they had talks with him, maybe he was doing some scouting, maybe off the book somewhere, or again, someone saw something and he knows players. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a guy that played football or a super inside guy, but you have to have someone that's again, he's too much involved in the media. He has to run. He's an owner of the team. You have too much other stuff. See, his voice always on the mic is because he wants to be in front of Dallas, not behind it.
Exactly.
Let the machine
like you should
run,
be.
And right. So the problem is that, they ask him questions. You don't have to answer those questions. Even as an owner and GM, listen, this is not the place, it's not the time. That's what a GM does too. Not the place, not the time. This is not how we do things. Listen, we have a game plan. The team is not winning. We're focusing on the next team. But all of a sudden, he does that, and then eventually, when it goes belly up, well, listen, he already made comments. Oh, I don't like how this team is playing, blah, 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 blah. And all this stuff. He starts bringing the noise. There's where the problem is. It's unsettled with the coaching staff. It's unsettled with the players. is the result you get. You get 7-7 right now.
I don't want guarantees.
He will, like, with the setup now, any high level coach that respects themselves will not go to a team that's set up that way.
Exactly.
It'll never fucking happen.
And like if I was a coach personally, I'd want guarantees. Like, for example, let's be real. Like, part of the reason why I've done decent in these fantasy leagues is because I've hit on rookies and I watch like tape at night and stuff like that. I just do a really good job knowing what rookies are going to be really good. If I was a coach, I'd want some sort of guarantees like, yo, you're going to let me pick some of my fucking players because I'm the one that's got to fucking get them motivated and put them in positions to succeed and run some sort of system to try to win football games. If you're like, for example, I'm telling you, dude, if I was in a war room of one of these teams on draft day and I was a head coach and these motherfuckers, like, remember when Mitch Trubisky got drafted #1 overall over Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes? Pat Mahomes, there's a lot of people out there going to act like they take credit for that shit, dude. I was banging the table from day one that Pat Mahomes was going to be an elite quarterback. If I was in that war room and I was the Bears head coach, and these motherfuckers coming up to me telling me they're going to be draft. Here's the thing. I went out on a limb, and I thought Mahomes was super talented, right? But there are boxes that Mahomes did not check off, even if we're being transparent. How I like to grade quarterbacks. Who did you play against? Who did you beat? And were you accurate against those teams, right? Those are my criteria. Pat Mahomes only met one of those criteria, having the accuracy and the arm talent. Never played anybody, never beat anybody, but I believed in him so much. Here's the thing. Deshaun Watson checked off every single box that are the things I look for in a quarterback. And if I was in that war room and the GM looked me in the eyes, I'm the head coach, and is like, we're going to draft Mitch Trubisky at #1 over Deshaun Watson, I would have picked up my fucking telephone and just beat him down with it. Like one of those old ass, I would hope I have one of those old ass 70s box telephones. I would have taken my war room telephone off the hook and gone straight up fucking, what is that, Robert De Niro, fucking Jimmy the Jet, fucking beat him down and strangle him with a phone cord. I've been like, hell no.
Okay, now we're going to go into Anton storytelling time, which is the best time of this show when I'm in here.
We're going to talk about John Elroy?
No, I'm going to give you some backstory on the Bears and their idea
fucking
of drafting
Mitch
Trubisky.
Deshaun Watson was a fucking Heisman Trophy winner and beat all the best teams in the league. It was accurate and dynamic. You take Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson. I can understand you being like, oh, Mahomes got some skills, but we don't know. But you take Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson. Mitch Trubisky didn't beat nobody and was accurate and injured the whole time.
Okay, so we also...
Oh, it makes me so mad.
To start off the story, we have to talk about the idea of people doing their job.
And dudes get like enamored with guys. They fall in love with shit dudes and shit to try to be cool.
So we all go to doctors. We all see practitioners.
Drug doctor.
So everyone talks, they go to school forever, blah, blah, blah. They're supposed to be super smart. They've done all this stuff, whatever. But there's still doctors that get C's and D's. So just because they have the label of doctor does not mean that they're a good doctor. Just because there's a professional football league and they go out here and try to draft and get the best players available doesn't mean that scouts and guys that are in the GM spaces and head coaches are really good at their job evaluating talent. They also, if they were getting rated in the class, they also can get C's and D's and F's. The issue is that you could smell that a mile away. And they build the hype over a guy, and it's like, so this was the Bill Parcells, map on a quarterback. He never took a quarterback that did not play and start for his team in college all 4 years. Now, the idea behind that is that he's learning as a freshman, learning as a sophomore. When he becomes a junior and a senior, obviously by that time he becomes team captain. But because he's involved basically in the offense, he's developing his skills get supremely better in junior, senior year. He's seen all the defenses, seen it all, done it all. All of a sudden, not only that, he gets playoff experience by playing in the bowl games. So you don't necessarily go by the record in the bowl games, but guess what? you want to win those bowl games. Like, they go win. They set up a game plan for multiple weeks. Nowadays, like, if you get into, a New Year's Day game, you're out there for a month, 3 weeks, a month, studying up or whatever. But even in the other smaller bowl games, you get a week or two to get in the game plan and do it. By the time you get out as a senior, basically all the tutorial stuff is done. The only thing you have to get beyond is when you get into the NFL, just the speed. That's it. You have all the tools. So then Bill Parcells can go up to the young quarterback. Hence, when we're talking about Dallas, Tony Romo, that he drafted, that was a 4-year starter at Illinois State. So he gets him in, and basically he doesn't have to teach him anything about pressure or anything else like that. He's just like, he knows how to make these throws.
Battle tested.
All he has to do is, I need you to do this in the offense. You have ability. So your ability is going to play beyond this offense, but this is all I need you to do. Tony, then he starts building the quarterback from there. If you take a quarterback when they're young and they have limited experience, and then on top of that, limited experience in college, what has he seen? He comes to the NFL, the speed is going to be too fast. He's going to be too experienced. And then basically, if he comes into the league and he becomes broken, good luck trying to fix that.
Something to be said for that, because if you look at the guys that come from the mid-major schools that ended up being good, what comes with being at a mid-major school is you have to work harder to put your talent on display for the country. Hence, you have to play all 4 years. Look at Big Ben. Big Ben was a 4-year player, I'm pretty sure. Miami of Ohio. Carson Wentz is a talented player. He played at a mid-major team for 3 years. Joe Flacco played at a mid-major team for 4 years. So I think everyone's looking for like the sexy type pick, the athletic guy can mold. But like those guys that come from Russell Wilson, his team wasn't a mid-major team, but he ended up going to play for like, who did he play for? Wisconsin? They're not known for being relatively good, but he played for 4 years in a strong conference and beat good teams.
So this is like 6 degrees of separation, this story. So what happened is that the Bears ended up, before the draft, way before the draft, Mike Glennon was on the market.
So Mike Glennon
was behind.
Keep getting them checks, Mike Glennon.
Jameis Winston. So when what's his face, the coach there, that now back at Rutgers, but when he was running the team,
Rutgers,
they had Jameis Winston, but he brought in Mike Glennon. So and I could be wrong. Maybe this they got Jameis Winston after him, but Mike Glennon, and here's the thing. So Mike Glennon, the Bears signed him up. Big contract, like 2 years or whatever. So they had Mike Glennon in the building. And everyone keeps thinking or keeps perpetuating this idea that Mike Glennon was going to be an NFL starter that can do some things. He would come off the bench. So he wasn't a bad backup. He was actually a high-level backup that could come off the bench and win you some games. He's not gonna dominate the game, but he's good enough to make plays and win the game. Kind of like a McCown or whatever. So Mike Glennon is with the team. So the Bears are throwing they're having a draft party. So they have a draft party, all the execs, wives, families, everything, everyone in the building having a draft party. Mike Glennon is there. So basically they're having a draft party.
I love how you know these stories.
So they're having a draft party, and they're basically, in a sense, not only the draft, but they're really showcasing Mike Glennon. They get to the pick. All of a sudden, Mitchell Trubisky, everyone in the room, it's like, Mike Glennon. So Mike Glennon was like, okay, I'm doing this draft party. All of a sudden, you drag me out to tell me, go fuck yourself. We just drafted a young quarterback.
That's crazy.
So, but check this out. So let's go and rewind 6 degrees of separation. So obviously, Mitchell Trubisky got drafted. He's not doing so great. They leapfrogged a whole bunch of dudes that they probably shouldn't have. He only had less than a year experience at NC State. Russell Wilson was at NC State. So
North Carolina
State. NC State, North Carolina State.
Is the Tar Heels North Carolina State or just North Carolina?
North Carolina, NC, UNC.
UNC.
So North Carolina State. So he was playing there for a couple years. So they had Russell Wilson there, and then Tom O'Brien, who was the coach who used to coach at BC, coach at NC State, went out and they were recruiting Mike Glennon. So what happened was they were going to bring in Mike Glennon. So Russell Wilson was like, "Yo, I'm going to try my baseball thing." So left and then wanted to come back, but they were recruiting Mike Glennon so hard. Mike Glennon was going to be, the prototypical
the touted
quarterback, the arm, everything else like that. So when Russell Wilson did the 1 year thing, he was like, or 2 year thing, he comes back, and then he goes to Wisconsin. So Mike Glennon, supposedly all great, what he's supposed to be, doesn't let Tom O'Brien keep his job, gets bounced out of there. So Russell Wilson obviously goes to Wisconsin, have a good year, goes into the NFL, get drafted in the 3rd round or 4th round, and rest is history. So Mike Glennon, Mike Glennon gets into the NFL, but what happens is that the coach that used to coach for Rutgers, who was a college coach, takes over Tampa Bay. But the problem is he was so high because everyone in college was so high on Mike Glennon that he wanted Mike Glennon, and Mike Glennon was going to be the heir apparent there in Tampa Bay. But clearly the coach was no good. He was only there for like 2 years or whatever, and totally blew up the team. Tampa Bay decided to be horrendous. But this idea that they kept perpetuating about Mike Glennon just never came true on the NFL level. But the problem is the 6 degrees of separation is Mike Glennon was the guy that once he came in, basically Tom O'Brien told Russell Wilson, take a fucking hike. So Russell Wilson wanted to come back to NC State. Tom O'Brien couldn't wait to get Russell Wilson the fuck out of there. Hence, where's Tom O'Brien? Nowhere. Where's Mike Glennon? I don't even know if he's on the team. And the fact is Russell
I think he
Wilson,
plays for the Bucs.
Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
So then
I think Glennon's I think he's the backup quarterback for Tampa Bay.
So, because again, he was at Tampa Bay, Chicago signed him, then Chicago ended up dumping him. So what happened? So then Russell Wilson is up for MVP, and they possibly have the number 1 seed with Russell Wilson running the show. But the fact is that to go back to the Bears.
Oh no, he plays for the Raiders.
To go back to the Bears, not all scouts are created equal. They made a bad choice, and with a lot of these teams, now let's go through the teams that have young quarterbacks that got possibly in the playoffs. The Chiefs,
Bills, Texans, Cowboys. Dak's 24.
Possibly. And
49ers, Garoppolo's 24.
The Rams are in the mix with a young quarterback. Eagles are in the mix with a young quarterback.
Titans have Tannehill. Browns have Baker Mayfield. They ain't getting in though. Raiders got Derek Carr.
So this again.
Ravens.
So again, the Michael Trubisky, I knew that shit was written on the wall.
He's so bad.
As soon as they picked him up, I was like, oh my God, the Bears, the Bears. You can't be this perennially bad at quarterback. But the problem is you keep drafting the wrong quarterback.
And that's a talented team too.
Right. So let's go back to the Cowboys. And this
finish your thought on the Cowboys real quick. Cowboys. I do think they went out and make it in, but I think they get smashed by the 49ers if they play them.
Right. And and this is
so they'll be bounced in the first round. Hopefully they fire all their coaches.
This is a weird thing.
Hopefully Jerry gets out of the GM business.
If the 49ers lose their last 2 games and the Vikings win their next 2 games,
the
Vikings will move into 5th.
Let's talk about the Vikings.
And the 49ers will move into 6th. But potentially, we still have the ability to win the division. We already lost to the Packers, but we play the Packers next week. We can beat them. Then I think we play Chicago in the end. We beat them. We could leapfrog the Packers and actually get into the second seed.
Oh, if you could get into the second seed, that'd be wild. They got to play you at home.
Okay, so the Cowboys and the Eagles technically, so the Rams still have the possibility of getting in. But with the Rams, obviously, they can't do anything in their own division, and losing to the Cowboys is going to be really tough because they would technically have to outright have a better record than the Cowboys to actually get in, because the Cowboys would get the tiebreaker because they beat them head-to-head. And not only that, they smashed them. So
Cowboys versus Niners.
So Cowboys versus Niners. If this
I think Cowboys get trounced. Has a potential to be a close game, but I think the 49ers are just too good and too well coached everywhere.
The problem is that Cowboys,
unless Jimmy Garoppolo has a meltdown, which I could see
possibly, but the thing is that the other main thing about the Cowboys in this year is they've shown no propensity to win at home or on the road. So they're not a good team at home. It doesn't matter if they load the fucking stadium up, they still end up losing. They're going to be probably one of the worst teams to ever show up in the playoffs and possibly lose. Because technically, if it stands like this, they're actually the home team.
Right.
So because they would actually win their division, which is the lowest seed you can get, is the 4th seed. So they actually be the home team. But none of these teams that they would have to play is anybody going to take them, them beating. So in this position, they're possibly going to lose this game, even being the home team. They'd probably give the road team, if they win it, whether them or the Eagles get in, the road team in this position would actually, the home team in that 4th seed that wins that division is probably going to be getting points at home. And that's fucking crazy, especially in the playoffs. How do you get into the playoffs and then the guys in Vegas are giving you points? And that's probably what's going to happen in this fucking game. The Cowboys, again, they have no propensity to win at home
Back
or on
it
the
in.
road. I think they're back.
Fold it up.
Yes, they get into the playoffs.
Pack the tents up.
It's actually a detriment to this team because really, I've always said, if you're just going to be like 8-8 and you're always going to make the playoffs, you're potentially always sort of, it's not too heavy in the NFL, but you're sort of always never going to get the best picks and you're never going to get the greatest picks in the first round. Those guys that you would think that would count, they'd always be in the mix to getting into the playoffs, but never really getting high-level picks unless you trade them away.
So before I get to my last...
So I think if it was to say the same, I think San Francisco, even on the road, will beat them at home. They have no reason to win that game.
Right.
Jason Garrett's out. They'll have a whole new coaching staff. I don't think potentially it would get any better because they can't bring in a high-level coach. That they would have to bring in a coach that's desperate.
There's rumors saying Jerry's extending his contract.
That's what happens when you have the owners, the GM. Don't know what the fuck you're doing. Next.
So real quick, I want to run through the Vikings and the Saints, and then we'll give our overall predictions of who we think's going to the final set of games and who's going to win the championship in case we don't meet up for this again before then.
Okay.
We got a little time. Your team, the Minnesota Vikings and Swaggy, I feel it. I really think that they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. They're dialed in to play against the Saints potentially. Do you think Swaggy shows up? Do you think Swaggy shows up? You like that? Yo, if he shows up, I need a you like that out of him. You like that?
Okay.
You like that?
This is the issue. Yes and no. The way he's been playing good is because the run game gave him the ability to, most of his plays and most of the good plays come off of play action. Dalvin Cook starts running really good, or even Madison runs really good, and that play action becomes so critical. And they've, I watch a lot of Minnesota Vikings games. I mean, this is my team. They get the action of the pass play off the play action. They run a lot of play action. They have him doing rollouts out of it, moving the pocket, all that stuff. Kirk Cousins is really efficient, giving him time and giving him space to make plays. He doesn't get into his own head when he has the ability to make plays. What you saw last year is his inability that when he gets flustered or he gets he's got to run around or he's got to make real fast decisions, it does not work for him. So that's the good. The bad is that it's going to be on the road too. I'm not saying anything about being on the road is that the percentage for Kirk Cousins on the road also goes down. And then this is a playoff game. So again, you got to remember, throw everything out. Playoff game starts over. Now, the other good benefit of this game is the Saints are missing some key guys up front on defense. That can be an issue. They did end up signing Jenkins from the Giants. They picked him up. So they're trying to bolster their roster, especially when it comes to wide receivers. Because if they're looking at this again, they're looking at this playoff divisional, they're facing us again. And this is I think 3 times in 3 years that they would have to face us, or twice in 3 years in the play. So if they faced us this year, this would be, I think, 3 times in 4 years that they faced us in the playoffs. The thing that we had against them is our ability, the wide receivers. The wide receivers would be a problem for them. So that's why they end up picking up Jenkins.
You mean Laquan of the tread that wells?
Which has been playing good. He's trying to work
his way to get it. I love it.
So, and that's because Thielen was out, and they were going to Diggs. And again, he's not fast, but he runs really good routes, and he's a big body. He just need to be focused, not very focused. But you use him as that slot guy. He can get down the seam, and if there's a smaller bodied corner, he could shove them off, or he could use his body and shield himself and go get the pass. No one's ever had a problem with him catching the football. It's just actually him getting open to catch the football. He's done a lot better this year, and Kirk Cousins likes to spread the ball around, so he doesn't look just strictly at one guy. Now, if Diggs gets the ball a lot or Thielen gets the ball a lot, it's because they're really wide open, and the play action or the plays itself, getting those guys one-on-one tends to be an advantage towards the Minnesota Vikings wide receivers. But what I do like about the game is that the Saints up front are down a little bit. But with the win last night, Drew Brees is starting to get back.
I know,
into
he's
the
starting
mode
to get
of
a little.
things. And that's the thing. Do we really want to get into a shootout? But the one thing I do like about our team is low injuries on defense going in, and what Zimmer has done is he's using more of the cornerbacks that he drafted, and he's using a huge rotation up front on the defensive line. Before, they used to get gassed out going into the playoffs. He would use them. They would get W's. They get in the playoffs, and you could see how the team was worn down. I don't think it's going to be an issue this year. The other thing too is the Saints are really good at home. And again, I don't like that stadium with Kirk Cousins. That makes me a little uneasy.
Okay.
So with that answer, yes and no. I do like Minnesota. Yes and no on Kirk Cousins, only because, again, we still need him to step up in big games. And sometimes, again, these type of playoff games are games where you need your quarterback to step up. A lot of what we've been doing well is because based on running the football. If they decide they want to stop the run, Kirk Cousins gonna have to make plays. Can he make plays in this game to get this?
We ain't no John Elroy,
right? But we're not no John Elroy. But we're not gonna get a game like we did with the Chargers last week, where we're gonna get 7 turnovers and we're gonna blow the team out. This is not the team to do it against. The team does bring a better defense, and they have weapons on offense with Drew Brees throwing the football. This could be a problem. If it stays the same like this and Drew Brees in the next 2 games really starts coming on, obviously I'm always going to pick my Vikings, but I'd be hard pressed to not think that the Saints might not win this game.
So that being said,
Yes.
we have talked about the wild card round. I need a little more space for this last split because I got to go to work soon.
Yep.
It's not going to go too far into the divisional round. Just who do you think represents each conference and goes to the Super Bowl? I personally think, going out on a limb, I think Super Bowl is going to be the Chiefs because I think they're playing good enough defense right now. As long as Pat Mahomes comes in clicking, I think the Chiefs have a good shot at going to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be the Chiefs versus the Packers. It's going to be the Chiefs versus the Packers. Packers starting to run the ball, playing balance. I think it's going to be the Chiefs versus the Packers. That's what I think the Super Bowl is. If I picked it differently, if a team is going to represent, my backup teams to represent are obviously the Ravens for the AFC. And then I think the Seahawks. I've been high on the Seahawks all year. That's what I think. I think Chiefs versus Packers could be Super Bowl this year. Just short and sweet.
I would say Chiefs, and the Chiefs just picked up Terrell Suggs off of waivers.
Ooh, another pass rusher.
Yep. Because Okafor went down. I would say the Chiefs and Seahawks, and the backup would be the Patriots.
Ooh, he still likes the Pats. You're not high on the Ravens?
No, it's not that I'm not high on them. I just think that, again, last year what you saw the Ravens in, again, they beat the Bills, but it was a tough matchup. If you could slow that attack down, and here's the thing, you can draw the Ravens out in the bad weather. It's going to come a running game. You can stifle them down, and again, he doesn't know the elements. So you drag him out to play the Patriots, you drag him out to play the Chiefs, maybe in the Bills.
Force them to make high-level throws in the
so
elements.
even in Baltimore, during the wintertime, it can get bad out there. I think, and again, the playoffs are different. I like the team, but I don't like the defense that much. And again, is it going to be about you putting up 5 or 6 touchdowns or getting 5 or 6 touchdowns? If you're relying on that with an okay defense that's just surviving, these teams that you play might, if they come and bring a good defense or the weather might be a factor, I think that'll be a problem for the Ravens. I do like them. I'm just not ready to anoint them into the playoffs. I want to go with experience, or I want to go with a little bit of savvy. I think the Chiefs, it's either going to be the Chiefs and the Seahawks, or it's going to be, I will say this. I will say possibly Patriots and maybe Saints.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Saints get another Super Bowl. Cement Drew Brees, the third greatest quarterback of all time.
But I like, this is why I won't take the Packers. I'll say the Packers, as I just said the Ravens. I don't like their defense either. And the fact is that, yes, they got a little run game and
Little two-man game.
Yeah, they got Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers does look like he has stepped back a little bit.
Think so?
Yeah, and the fact is what team was it? The Seahawks or someone else blanked them. I mean, or it was Chicago.
I remember that
Chicago.
game. It was Chicago.
Blanked them. I mean, blanked them right out the fucking building. And I'm like, they. And let's look at past history. They end up getting beat. They don't make it to the Super Bowl. They end up finding a way to not get to the Super Bowl. One championship. Outside of that,
I really like the Seahawks too.
Outside of that, they have never gotten back into the Super Bowl. I think a little bit is that once you get further on, you start seeing the best defenses, and then you have to start matching up against teams' offenses. I think the Seahawks bring about the most balance that you can get, and MVP type of quarterback.
Word.
That is really hard to stop. He figures out how to win these games, and sometimes you look at him and it's like, couple 3 and outs, all of a sudden, bang, 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 bang. And the running game, Carson is running really well. Even though they're losing Josh Gordon because of another drug offense, they still got even some young players, but they still got some talent. And again, Russell Wilson used to throw to nobody, hardly, just to Baldwin, and now they have talent there. They still got Wagner. They still have a really good defense. They got Clowney. Really good defense. I'm telling you, they have best overall talent on that team that could really just shoot them right to the Super Bowl. I'm high on them, and I do like the Chiefs pick also, but I would not still count out the Patriots until you actually bounce them out.
Until you actually bounce them out. So, in closing, I want to talk about a topic. Now, I only have a few friends that listen and follow the podcast that like soccer the way we do, but we had a conversation. Didier Drogba. I was bored one night at work and I found some articles, and then I also found a YouTube video where guys were talking about players that were overrated. And if anyone's listened to this podcast before or any listen to episodes with Anton and I, they know how much we love Didier Drogba. He's one of our favorite soccer players. You got a solid 10 minutes here before we shut this thing down. You could go on your passionate rant. I found what it was. There was a website that said he's the most overrated player of all time. Mm-hmm. Then there was a YouTube video where he was rated the third most overrated player in the history of soccer. And both of their arguments were that he only averages 0.73 goals per game, whereas most of the high-level strikers average a little bit over 1 per game. Mm-hmm. But I can make the argument that he played so long, too, making money on some teams that weren't that great, and that bogged it down. Always remember, people, motherfucker scored 100 goals for Chelsea in the Premier League in its heyday when it was really good. That's not hard to do. Or it's not easy. That's not easy to do that's at all. So, thoughts on that before we close this out, and then we'll wrap it up.
So, you told me about this, and I off the record, I was a little passionate about it.
He was heated.
I'm not a Chelsea fan. I was a Didier Drogba fan. And he is what you considered at the time, like a prototypical forward. And what I mean by that is a guy that just scores goals, makes his body big, stands in front of goal, whether he heads it in, able to find his way to goal. I mean, obviously Van Persie's not on this list. Obviously all these other guys. The reason why they're not on there or on this list is because he has a resume that extends over a long period of time that you can't put other bums on the fucking list. And the fact is
he was your prototypical skilled number 9.
So like no one else is on the list because they didn't last that long. No, Van Persie didn't last that long in the Premier League. In the Premier League, and a lot of people haven't lasted this long.
He played for like 20 years.
Right. So
which is odd. You told me like the most soccer players start retiring in the early 30s. Did you say that?
Actually, yes.
I did not know that because there are some good players that are old that are still playing.
Because normally out of the academies they get a start at like they can get a start as early as 16, 17. Right. But those are the exceptional ones, which is very very minute. And sometimes they get a start in an academy somewhere else, like let's say Lyon or somewhere else, and then these bigger squads, which tend to be sort of like over in Europe, kind of like the Yankees or Dallas over here, they tend to go out and get and pay for these high level players a ton of money and get them in while they're young, and then they build these squads around these high level talented players. So the scouting over there in all these, you have the Bundesliga, you have La Liga, you have the Primera, you have all these leagues. They're able to, and then they have lower division leagues. So to find these players in the rough and at these different academies,
the Ivory Coast,
right. There's an extensive, there's an extensive list of high level talent that people want. I mean, like at Lyon, there's like Karim Benzema. They're just coming out of places, and then the teams, Real Madrid, goes and snatches them up. So in the end, like even when you're there and you could play a long time, but when you start at 16 and then you end at like let's say like 32, you've gone way over 10 years already. But again, at the time when it comes to soccer, your body starts to break down. Your knees, you're doing a lot of running, your skills kind of, you're not as fast. You tend to take on more injuries. Again, David Silva for Man City. So he'll probably either come to the United States or he'll go to another league and he'll still keep playing, but to play in these high level divisions, they don't stay very long. So 33 here in the Premier League, yes, it's a long time, but he will probably go somewhere else and play for some years and make money. You can come over to MLS, they'll toss you a boatload of cash. And you only have to use half your talent, and you'll probably be, MVP of the league. Zlatan came over and instant impact in the league. So, and again, Drogba went over to the Chinese Super League and went over there. Then he came over to the MLS where he played for the Montreal Impact. And what did he do with the Montreal Impact? He in his first 7 games, he had like 9 goals. He the instant impact of these high level players is just phenomenal. But the fact is that they obviously have to make these lists. They make these lists in the NBA too, where they were like, who's the most overrated player? Russell Westbrook's been on there. Blah blah blah. They always do that. And the fact is that sometimes it's a little bit of jealousy, and sometimes it's a little bit of clearly, sometimes their attitude brings them up on these lists, because these lists are made by a lot of like
biased
sports
fans
writers
and shit.
Fans, and like sometimes their attitude rubs people the wrong way, so they have a distaste or disdain for these players. The problem what I have with the Drogba, yeah, you could do it. Anybody can make a list. I could care less. And do I think this is the list of all lists? No. The fact is that this team with Drogba on it has won multiple Premier Division 1
100 goals for Chelsea in 8 years. 3 times hit the 30 goal mark in a season.
Which find anyone else that will do that, and then ask me if he does not belong on that list, because you're going to find a lot more players that have not made that list, and for some reason,
tons of hardware.
Right. Your UEFA Championship, when they did not win their league and they were not going to be brought back to your UEFA Championship, the only way they could come back was you have to actually win it, because they weren't in the top 3, top 4 of their own division, and from the Premier League they invite 4. So the other leagues sometimes only invite 2. So they didn't get in. They didn't win. They were out of the top 4. They go over. They're still playing in the UEFA Championship. The only way you can be asked to come back in is if you're returning champion. They go out there. Drogba runs the whole thing, gets the goals, and then when they needed a goal in the 90th minute, goes in there, gets a header, and then that's goal. They win the championship, walk away, and they're brought back to the Premier League. Again, if you're overrated, I don't know how you're doing that.
Right.
Because clearly in the recent history, I've only seen one other player do that, and that was Didier Drogba. And that's because this dude knows how to find goals. The mere fact that you would even remotely put him on that list is it's a lack of information and knowledge of the player. Clearly he's on one of the premier
That's another thing. They tried to say that the reason why. Well, they're trying to say the reason why, one of the other reasons why the article said he was so good is because he had the personnel around him to be good, right? But here's my thing. How many guys, you've watched way more soccer than me. I've always paid attention to soccer, but the last handful of years I've gotten really, really deep into soccer. In my opinion, I've gone back. I've watched so much film on soccer players. There's only a handful of guys that are straight up. There's probably less than 15 of them all time that are straight up high level, fucking take a game over X Factor guys. Remember how we said when Ronaldo was young, he was just a fucking bull. He'd get that ball. It didn't matter where he was. He would come up the field, take on all comers. It didn't matter where he was at. You could put Drogba. It doesn't matter. You can put the ball at his feet and he could square up. He can go past you. He can go through you. He can come over the top with headers. Oh, not to mention underrated free take kicker too. Had nasty free kicks for goals. It didn't matter where he was.
The one knock I do have against Drogba is, yes, he would turn and face and go at people. That was probably the weakest part of his game.
It definitely was the weakest part of his game, but he could do that if he needed to do it.
But he could do that.
And it's mostly because of his athletic tools. Again, so athletic, velocity on the ball.
So a lot of the goals, and again, the goals were, he got the goals during a period when they had Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
So Jose Mourinho had this, they used to make fun of him, but this is what they would say over in Europe. The articles, they would paint these pictures where it was Jose Mourinho's philosophy is you score a goal or two and then you back the bus up. The idea is that what you do is then you send everyone to defend the goal. It's like backing a bus up in front of the goal. So then it's you have to break through all of this to get to the goal. So it's backing the bus up in front of the goal. And that's how he played. The problem is that when you play like that, you don't get a lot of goals. So a guy
your number 9 has to just be high level.
Your number 9 has to dominate, and that's what he did. He was go out there, go get that first initial goal. And again, if this is what you're going to say about that, then why don't you put a disclaimer out there that every other team does this before they start the fucking game? They back their defense into the goal and hypothetically hoping that they can get a golden goal out there and win the fucking match.
And it's funny you say that because you know what drives me insane? Don't you hate it when soccer clubs come out and they're way too happy that they got a draw? They're like, oh, we came away with 1 point today, and we did a good job. And it's you still tied, motherfucker. It doesn't change anything.
They're going out there to set up for the draw. They want a 0-0 tie.
It's god damn, dude.
So the team comes out and clearly
we got 1 point today. We're happy with that.
They have so clearly. Okay, so they get the ball. Soon as you turn and you look at the field, they don't even have their forward over the midfield line. That's how backed up they are into defense to stopping you from scoring a goal. And then to turn around and that Didier Drogba could still get a goal through that is unfathomable how they would actually say he was underrated. The whole offense, his whole concept of running a team, Mourinho, was to get one goal. So how could you run around with over 30 goals in a season and say, oh, it's because the talent.
He had 37 one year.
Yep. Clearly the talent was so much better. That's how he was able to get the goals. When every fucking team out there that would play them would back the fucking bus up in front of the goal and dare them to score goals without giving up one. So the fact is that for him to get at least 30 goals in 3 seasons, what you said, 37 goals in 1 season.
I think it's all throughout the cumulative year. I don't know if that's all competitions, but it said at Chelsea is most. Maybe that's
it could be cumulative, but the fact is that yes, they played like an Inter Cup there. You play in UEFA, but still, find me anybody else that's scoring outside of Messi and Ronaldo that score over 30 goals in all competitions.
Yeah, in all competitions, right?
You don't by writing that and to say that you're an actual soccer fan or someone that actually watches soccer. The problem is that you really haven't watched enough of it to know that this is the concept. And again, here's another thing. the Premier League has always, in the past 15 years, has always been the fastest, most up-tempo league out there. So as fast as you can score a goal is as fast as someone else can score a goal.
Exactly.
So the fact is that they had to be up-tempo, and Drogba had to think fast on his feet just like everyone else. Again, this is one of these lists that they have to put out there, and that someone's got to be on the bad side of this list.
Yeah, and it's like I've heard people try to compare him to fucking Lukaku. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up.
No. Here's the thing.
It's like,
here's
get the
another
fuck outta here,
little tidbit. Lukaku growing up had Didier Drogba posters on his wall. That's how much he wanted to be like him. And guess what? Guess who Lukaku is? He's almost a mirror image of fucking Didier Drogba.
Just not as athletic and skilled, though.
Right.
Like he plays similar to him.
He's bigger, so he's a little bit bulkier, slower. But the fact is that when they played, they were on Chelsea together, and the fact is that that's why Mourinho beeline to go get him, because
hoping
Mourinho
he would be
was
2.0.
Mourinho was always trying to get he wanted to clone Didier Drogba, and that's what he did. He went out and got the guy that played like him, looked like him, and clearly formulated or built his game around being exactly the same dude that he had there, and that's why he went out and got him. But also, you have to understand that this is Mourinho's like idyllic forward, but it's everyone's idyllic forward. They're up top alone, running around, doing their thing. What you do is you play around in the midfield until eventually you get that dude in the final third, and you have him going against one dude and the goalie. And guess what? Didier Drogba normally ends up on top in the end when you see the final score. And that was the whole point. And but again, that's a prototypical forward in the Premier League. Whether or in any league. See, the other leagues, they like to slow it down. Italian league, and just like the Italians play, get one goal, back the bus up. That's kind of Mourinho's style. That's how he likes to play. That's how he formulated off of that. But he was able to dictate that tempo even in the Premier League when everyone wants to run around. So when they would play Chelsea, they would back the bus up because they were like, listen, if we try to get in a shootout with Chelsea, clearly, obviously the talent there, they would blow us out. But they thought that the best next thing to do is to back in the front of the goal. But then you couldn't still stop Drogba from attacking the ball with his head or attacking it on his feet. He could eventually, again, no one's like, I'm using the example of Van Persie. Van Persie always just found himself on the ball in front of the goal. But it's the work that he has to do to get there and get that. That's the point of a forward. But no one's discrediting him for that a lot of the goals were just tap-in fucking goals. All he had to do was get in front of goal and tap it in. But no one wants to get in like, oh, Van Persie's still high level because he still has, the work rate still has to be high to get in front of the defender or get behind the defender and still attack goal. All that work to leading up to that is high level. That was Didier Drogba times fucking time.
And you know who I see, before we end this, who I see a little bit of Drogba in? Kylian Mbappe. I see a little bit of Drogba, Kylian Mbappe, as far as attacking the ball. Remember when we were watching here, and we were watching and we said that Kylian Mbappe was going to show how good he was in the World Cup, and he got out and headed that ball. Remember that mad scramble where he's just sprinting down the field, and gets out ahead and draws the foul? That's like... That was like Drogba-esque, that work rate, getting out in front of guys and bolting down the field like that.
He like a lot of his game really reminds me of Ronaldo. He turns,
I can see that.
He's very fast.
And he attacks.
He's very good at
Same
the ball
size.
at his feet, going direct. He's a younger version of him. He can turn, face, and he goes. He doesn't. Because some players like turn and face, and they want to evaluate what they have. Sometimes a lot of it, and this is always what's been Ronaldo's best quality is, it doesn't matter. Once I turn and I face, I'm going
fearless.
Like you could so if you try to bring a couple people over to shade him, he can flip it over and get it to someone and get maybe get someone else to get it on goal. If you want to leave him one-on-one, he's probably going to get that dude. And then by the time he gets past that dude, the problem is he's going to be in the box. He's going to have options to pass, or he's going to blaze one past the goalie. So then you're in trouble there. That idea is so not used by players, and the fact is that the players that do use that mentality tend to Messi does dance around, but he tends to be indirect in that way. But what happens is once you get him on the edge of the box and he starts doing his thing, that's a dangerous place.
Right.
So instead of going direct, but he's being aggressive in that way. Mbappe is like Ronaldo, where he's very direct aggressive. He turns and faces, but the problem is if you get him that ball right before the last third of the field, and you give him space, it's like Ronaldo. It's like, oh, I can get the top speed, and once that dude comes up on me, I can do a move, and he can blaze that ball outside the box.
Oh, for
and
sure.
he can almost tear the net.
It don't matter where he's from.
Yeah.
In case in point, to finish this, I just feel as though there are a handful of guys in the history of soccer where I watched it one day. I'll probably find the video to send it to you. There's certain guys that are just polarizing. I watched a game one time where Ronaldo was faced up with a guy and he had about like 12 feet of distance between him and the dude, and the dude's like deep far back, like, because he's got to try to cut an angle and take the dude. Mm. And Ronaldo did that thing where he just does that little round flick thing to make it look like he's going to go one direction, and everyone was keying in on him, right? And he did that move, that little flick, and went like this and shifted his body weight like, I'm going to go right, and the whole entire defense like shifted a little bit. I feel like there's a handful of dudes that bring that impact. I felt like Didier Drogba was one of those guys. Like, you have to game plan for him. And even then, he'll still fucking beat you.
So there's always been an idea, real quick. Ronaldo was in the Premier League and did very well, and then Real Madrid came and got him. They got at the time, the record transfer fee, and Man United got the money back. But obviously, they were run by Ferguson, who is kind of like a guy that can take different parts of
Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, and put it together and still make a high-level squad that can win games. So the idea that Messi never played in the Premier League and had a lot of opportunities to go there to high-level teams, a lot of people say that because Messi is small, that
he got beat up.
He wouldn't be able to do that dancing, and obviously in the Premier League they're a little bit more physical. They allow that physical play. I'm not terribly against that idea. I'm not terribly for that idea. Number one, you still have to take the ball off his feet,
which is almost impossible.
Which is almost impossible, and by doing that, if you did, you would have to be overly aggressive to do it. They do allow a lot of tugging and stuff like that, but that overt physical play will not last. And his dribbling skills are that good that if he pulls the ball from you and you try to slide in, guess what? That's a red card and you're out of here. So I think he would be able to survive. That's just a weird idea that people say. Again, amongst all the really great dudes, even with Drogba, like hearing about the list of him being the most overrated player, that's the first time outside of like maybe Messi, the high level players, where I've ever heard like a major criticism. Messi just being like he might not be able to survive in the Premier League, which I think that's
I think he'd still be fine.
Yeah, he would be fine.
You'll never know because he's never going to play there.
Right. But again, he's Argentinian.
And by the way, we're not. Even though I'm a Ronaldo fan, I'm not a Messi hater. Messi's fucking gangster, dude.
No.
Best dude ever in short quarters. I watched a play where 3 dudes are stabbing at the ball with their feet, and he does a spin move through 3 defenders, controls the ball all the way through the spin move, and they all miss, and he keeps dribbling and then scores. It's crazy. He's nuts.
Ronaldo is very good in big moments on getting those free kicks. Messi is. I mean, they're equally about the best free kick takers.
Yeah, they're the 2 best players of all time, in my opinion. I don't think that anyone can really dispute that. No, the old heads are like, they start naming old dudes from the 40s and shit, but it's like.
But again, there's so many teams.
There's so many players.
There's so many players. Again, the only knock, but then again, you have to knock other players too. The knock against certain players were like, oh, well, he couldn't play in the Premier League. Well, then if your players in the Premier League are so good, why didn't they come over to, the Spanish Premier League? Right. Why did they go over to the Bundesliga? I mean, again, this the idea of like, they have to make these rating lists, and they're kind of whack.
For sure.
The fact is that anybody could look at soccer and look at those two players and clearly, right within the first 5 minutes of the match, know that those guys are the best players, not only on the field, but probably in the world.
Probably ever.
Because you would see everyone else that are high-level players for the teams that they play on and the teams they're playing against, and clearly know, oh, if the dude is an alpha male on this team, imagine how he's viewed everywhere else.
Listen, man, don't make me get adamant here and tell you about how Blake Griffin's a better basketball player than LeBron. Anyways,
that's a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, that is a 3-hour podcast in itself. But this is the Keep It a G Real podcast. It's always great to have Ton on. Hopefully, Ton next year can get a couple in and try to steal the throne from Kyle. I got to still make his
if I keep bringing these
trophy
stories about Mitchell Trubisky and Mike Glennon, guess what? That ain't happening. But let's get some votes.
I think the biggest thing is Kyle's been on the podcast 9 times. Only 30 episodes. He's been on 9 times. This is your 4th time, 3rd or 4th.
Yep.
So, and Andy J's been on 3 times.
But yo, let's get some Andy J votes out.
Let's get some Andy J. I'm having him on. I think I'm having him on tomorrow. So.
Let's get some more views.
And we got to get some more views.
Let's get some more views, and then let's get some more people on here, and then we can get some more votes on here, and that's what's going to be key.
But yeah, hopefully we can make it. Now that I got 2 months off, we're going to be pumping them out. Tomorrow I'm hoping to have Andy J on, and we're going to talk a little MMA. And then I'm going to be having Big Kyle, the winner of the first ever guest of the year for the Keep It G Real podcast on. Him and Spencer and I have a lot to talk about the gaming. And yeah, let's hope to get it. I'm going to try to get it pushed out a little bit more and try to come up with some schemes to make the podcast bigger. Hopefully episode 30. I mean, we're still putting them out. So
we just got to get people to listen.
But yeah, we'll be back. Hopefully get 2 done next week. Hopefully have Darren on next week with Nick. Hopefully we can have those 2 back on, and we'll holla at you later.